Okay.
We're just getting ready. Yeah.
Do you want us to cut that on in a minute?
Stay right there. We're not going to be long.
Yeah, we'll be
We'll start the meeting in about 3 minutes, and you're going to be almost first on the agenda.
On the controller for a while. Set it down here, you set it down there. When they start the meetings, they come by, so they I think I'll stay on.
Nerdy and she always down, so
Oh,
she let him.
sorry. And you also already provided it. I'll sign that one too. Joseph's waiting for you guys. Okay. Jim, are you all set? All ready? That was great timing. Like we planned it that way. Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to the regular council meeting called for Monday, May 18th, 6 p.m. We are in the council chambers. I'm Mayor Rick Efford Chase. Present, we also have Council President Carter Finnegan, council members Andrew Touchette, John Manette, and Sharon Perry, Clerk Treasurer Jim Johnson. I think our Finance and Office Administrator Carrie Schultz is in the room somewhere. Who else do we have from staff? Anybody else from the staff? And then we have, Kevin. Kevin Lacoste, Chief of the Fire Department, is here. And I don't think there's anybody online. So we have a lot of folks in the room tonight. It's kind of great to see almost every seat filled in here. We have the Scout Troop with us. We also have some folks from the Fire Department Task Force who are with us tonight. Some folks from NDD. So we've got a full agenda and a lot to cover. So, council members, I'll ask first if you have any additions or deletions for the agenda. Okay. Let's close that window and this one. How many places do you go where you have to close the window because there's a tractor driving by outside?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the very first thing on our agenda tonight is going to be introduced by Council Member Sharon Perry. Go ahead.
Now you.
Okay, so can you hear me? Or hearing? Okay. Welcome, everybody. It is my honor and privilege to to introduce to you our guest of honor today, Mrs. Miriam Viens. Mrs. Viens turned 100 years old. She turned 100. Okay.
Pull it right up close.
Yeah. She turned 100 years old on May 8th at the Buffalo Crossing Assisted Living Facility at the Villages in Florida. Her entire family, minus one grandchild who came a week later, was there. They flew in from all parts of the country to be there with her. Miriam was born in Vale-Perkins, Quebec, which is the base of Owl's Head. She moved to Newport in 1974 and resided on Sloane Street, till which time she moved to Michaud Manor and then down to Florida to be closer to family. She has 3 children, all who are very active in Newport, starting with her oldest son, Gary, who represented us here in Newport through the Vermont House of Representatives from 2015 to 2019. Her daughter, Sherry Viens Morissette, who many of you might have seen at Community National Bank, and her son, Randy, who is here with us tonight, who served on our planning commission for the city of Newport for many years. In addition, she has 6 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and a 5th one on the way in July that we're all excited for. Here in Newport, she was very active with Community Circle. She was a faithful member of St. Mary's, and she was a very active member at the Forever Young Club downstairs. She still watches Jeopardy every night, puts me to shame, I'm sure, and discusses it with Randy after every episode. Personally, her smile, her giggle, and just her optimism to life in general will be something I will always, always remember. So, Mr. Mayor?
So, Randy, you're here somewhere in the room. Will you come forward, please?
Yes.
So, Miriam, I'm going to read a proclamation. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yes, barely.
All right, I'm going to do it as, here, you'll hold the proclamation, I'll read it. How's that? Is that better? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. This is a proclamation honoring the 100th birthday of Mrs. Miriam Viens. Whereas, on May 5th, 2026, Miriam Viens celebrates the remarkable milestone of 100 years of life, wisdom, service, and change, and through it all has remained a steadfast source of inspiration to her family, friends, and our community of Newport, Vermont. And whereas reaching 100 years of age is an extraordinary achievement that reflects a lifetime of experiences and perseverance and patience, Miriam has contributed immeasurably to the lives of those around her through her acts of kindness, her smile, and through the legacy of love that spans generations. And whereas the celebration of this joyous occasion is not only a tribute to Miriam's longevity, but a tribute to her core values and spirit that has enriched the city of Newport and her family through her strength, her compassion, and her zest for life. And whereas the mayor and city council wish to recognize and celebrate this significant occasion and express their gratitude for the many ways in which Miriam has contributed to the community of Newport, now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Richard Ufford Chase, Mayor of Newport, Vermont, on behalf of the City Council and residents of Newport, Vermont, do hereby extend heartfelt congratulations and best wishes on this joyous occasion of Miriam Viens' 100th birthday. In witness whereof we have all hereto set our hands, the Mayor, City Council President Carter Finnegan, City Clerk and Treasurer Jim Johnson, City Council Member John Manette, City Council Member Andrew Touchette, and City Council Member Sharon Perry. Congratulations, Miriam. We are so thrilled to celebrate this event with you. Is is there anything you would like to say to all of us? Miriam, it's not often that someone who's 100 years old gets to give us advice.
I'm just very grateful to you, and thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you. And I want to say go ahead, thank you, Randy. So you're welcome to say something as well. Do you want to say anything on this?
She said it.
She said it all.
Sir, thank you. Thank you all.
So, Sharon, this was Sharon's idea to begin honoring folks in this way. So you can expect that every once in a while, when we have the good fortune to have another resident turn 100 years old, Sharon will do her magic in the background and we will do this again to lift folks up. So thank you, Sharon, for all your work on it.
Congratulations, Sharon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So y'all are welcome to stay and we will understand if you go. You don't have to sit through our entire meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, I'll try and modulate my level of speaking a little bit here for y'all. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. It includes minutes from the 4th and the 11th of May, AP warrants for the 8th and 15th of May, payroll warrants for the 12th of May, and liquor licenses, vendor permits, special events permits for the Brew Bus, for the Wednesdays on the Waterfront, for Hobos, Food Truck, La Belvedere Corporation, Cumberland Farms of Vermont, and the American Legion Post 21. Are there any questions, council members, regarding the consent agenda?
Yeah, I had, thank you. Tom's not here though, so I can maybe wait and pull these questions, but I was wondering what the water operating fee was on our APs. It looks like it went to State of Vermont DEC, and I was just wondering do you know what the water operator fees are? Is that like for certification?
Well,
or
that's a license for the state.
a license for the state, okay. And then,
Just gotta go or take it out and hold it next to you.
and then I was wondering, it's under Great Bay Hydro Corp, and it's something coded as solar, and it costs us $650, which isn't a crazy amount of money. I was just wondering how, my understanding is Great Bay Hydro oversees dam operations, and so I don't know what, so I'm just curious as how that ties into solar. But if you don't know, and if Tom, yeah, right, and typically Tom is president, it's okay if he's not.
So let's find out.
I will pause, I'll find out, okay. But,
Okay.
I got one more.
Any other comments or questions on the consent agenda? Members of the community, any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment on items that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. So, John, could you grab that for us and let us know who's got comment they'd like to make?
Okay, Ann Sherrillo is first.
Okay, and I'm going to move the mic up a little bit for you.
Last time you met on a Monday, you approved,
Can you speak into the mic, Ann, please? Thank you.
last time you met, council, last Monday, you approved the purchase of a Vector machine for about over $600,000. And here is my concern when I thought about it in retrospect. You used to make your determinations the flow chart for a cash flow over a period of time, which went all the way, I think, maybe into almost December of this year, way beyond the fiscal year, which ends June of this year, June 30th of this year. And I realized that what you didn't consider were the budgets. The cash flow has everything in it. It has water, sewer, and it has the general fund in it. But the question really for the independent enterprise funds, which are separate funds and have a separate budget independent of the general fund budget, is whether or not you stayed within that budget. And I remember at one of the budget meetings that we had for all the citizens, for the first time, a couple of, well, maybe 6 months ago, the mayor specifically said, what we are going to do this year is we are going to stay within the budget. And I have told all the department heads that we will stay within the budget. And I take that to heart. And then I look at the latest, I refer to it now, and I'll come back and ask some questions in more detail later. But the latest budget status report, which...
Actually, Ann, I'm going to have you hold that because we will be talking about the
but
budget
then I hope-
documents later on the
okay,
agenda.
I hope you don't sign anything on the back of fund before you hear that, because the fund is 4,600% higher than the amount of money you had, I'm sorry, the amount of money you had to spend for the reserve, for the factor. You've gone 4,600% over how much you had to spend, and that doesn't include what else you might have spent in the water and sewer funds. I'll go into more detail on that later, but I think it's really important that you stay within the budget. I know you did something because you thought it was important, and I understand why you did it. But it really is important to stay within the budget. That's key. And when you're that far over in a particular category, you really have to think again about whether or not you should wait until you're within a budget to do it.
Thank you. We have other people who signed up to speak, John?
Teresa Gerard.
Teresa, are you in? Oh, there you are, right in front of me, sorry.
Hi, Teresa from Newport. I just wanted to,
Just please use the mic, Teresa, speak, just come direct a little bit, that's good.
I just wanted to say how happy I am that Newport signed the resolution to keep the landfill leachate out of the Medford watershed. So important. And I wanted to get back to members that were wondering what is Canada doing about the lake. And I can tell you that there used to be a landfill up near Magog called the Bestan landfill, and it was closed in 2010, and the leachate is trucked out of the watershed, and has been since it closed. So I also wanted to mention that last week I attended the Vermont-Quebec Steering Committee, and Mayor Rick and Council President Carter were also there, and if there's any question that the Canadians are doing anything to help Lake Magog, that meeting was clear that they are taking it very seriously, and they're doing a lot to protect and help Lake Magog and to look at the fish and analyze the water and all of that. And there was a group there called the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, and they have recently added 2 lakes to the Great Lakes, and it's Lake Champlain and Lake Magog. We're this little tiny dot, but we're on the map. So we are a great lake.
We are a great
already
lake.
knew it, but we are. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Teresa. John, anyone else signed up to speak? No. Okay. Thank you. No one on. Okay. The next item on our agenda is a report from the Scouting America Troop 811. Scoutmaster Ivy Crow is here with us tonight, and we have 3 scouts who have agreed to speak, as I understand it. And I'll invite anyone who's going to speak to just come to this little corner here, and we'll have you speak into the microphone. Okay, and it's your chance to come address the council. Yep, come on up, all 3 of you. You can just kind of cluster here and speak as you wish, okay? Just tick the microphone up and down as you need to and stand close to it. Who's going to please introduce yourself as you begin to speak so we know who you are and where you're from.
one?
Yep.
I'm Jackson Crow from 2-11 in Newport, of course. And this past weekend and week we've been helping fundraise helping the Holland Food Shelf to get donations of food and money to help the people down there. And this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we raised 1,707 pounds of food to donate to the Holland Food Shelf. And
Yeah, we can go ahead there, y'all. We want to clap for that.
We are still taking donations of food, and anything else that could be considered help is great for us and the people at the Holland Food Shelf. So,
Thank you, Jackson. Tip it right down towards you. There you go. And stay really close.
I'm Belinda Van Tool, and we are here tonight to learn about issues that are important to our community, what branch of local government is responsible for this issue, and to learn how we.
Thank you, Belinda.
I'm Julie Ford. I'm also from Troop 811. I'm from Newport, actually, but I'm a part of Troop 811. Us scouts, well, the scouts and I, sorry, correct grammar, are working on earning our citizenship
Take your time.
citizenship in the community merit badge. We are learning about our local government, community, organizations, and services, and we've been doing that for quite some time.
Council members, anyone have questions or comments for the scouts tonight? Okay, hearing none. Members of the community, is there anyone who has anything you'd like to ask or add to the conversation with Troop 811? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Teresa. Just go to the microphone, please.
Thank you for all your efforts. I just wanted to ask where would we donate food? I'm just not sure.
Step over to the mic for me, please, Jackson.
all the food is going to what used to be the Holland School. I'm not sure what it's called now, but community center.
In Holland, so drive to Holland.
Drive to Holland, and we will be there.
We're going to drop off all the food that we've collected. It will be almost 2,000 pounds
2,000 pounds.
To the Holland School or
Holland
Community
School.
Center on
Community
Saturday. If people do have items that they
Saturday.
want to donate, you can reach out to me on Facebook or through Rick or Chris Fashon.
That's Ivy Crow.
And we can arrange to pick something up from you as well.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. If anybody would like to add to the donations and you want to drop it by the office here this time, sometime this week, we'll reach out to let our troop master know that we've got more to add to the pile. Okay?
Thank you.
Hold on, you're not done yet. Kitty, will you come forward to the mic, please? I have to speak up. Oh, I know your voice is going.
My voice is not great. I do have a question. So if you all, scout folks, if you want to run for public office, local office, do you know what the requirements are to become a city council person or a mayor or a select board member? Do you know what the requirements are?
Anybody want to answer that? Council members, anybody want to answer that? Do we have I don't think we have an age requirement written into the charter or anything, do we? Ann's our charter expert.
I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
You have to have 30 signatures, you gotta be a resident of the city.
There you go. You
There
heard
you
it here
go.
first. Okay, you gotta have 30 signatures and be a resident of the city. And then what that lets you do is announce that you're running for office, and you would be running against anybody else who collected 30 signatures. And then on the town meeting day next year in March, there would be an election. So come let us know if you want to have a conversation about that. Go ahead, Ann.
I want to let you know that there's a lot of us who come and ask questions and make comments, and we're just plain old citizens in Newport. And some of us are getting old, and we need replacements. And believe me, this council is open to hearing from any of you about any of the issues that you're done. So that's really important. Thank you.
I may not buy you pizza every time. Any other comments or questions from members in the community? Okay, could we please give a round of applause to the Truth 811? Oh wait, Mark, were you trying to speak?
Yes, I did. I did want to tell the truth there. They're doing a wonderful job, because I was a Boy Scout, and I did that kind of stuff. And I was,
There we go.
congratulations.
Thank you, Mark.
And be prepared to the audience when you come back to be a mayor. You're going to get yelled at.
Thank you very much, y'all. Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda tonight is a presentation by the Fire Department Strategic Planning Task Force. And I think we might want to, Roger, are you the one who's doing the presentation, or is it someone?
Unfortunately am, yeah.
I think if you're okay with it, we'll leave you right there, just because it gets you on the film.
Okay, that's exactly what I want.
Okay.
That's a tough act to follow there.
Yeah, no kidding. So actually, let me just set context. For those in the room who don't know, last summer, I believe it was June, wasn't it, Andrew? Last June, the council approved the creation of a strategic planning task force for the fire department. They've been meeting about every month to 2 months for the last 11 months. And this is the first report back that we will have, and I expect that we will hear from them more and more regularly over the coming year, because they're dealing with kind of everything from very specific questions that are immediate to long-range planning. So, Roger, with that, please let us know where you are in the process and how you feel about it.
Sure. Mayor and council, thanks for having me. My name is Roger Goslin. I'm one of the many members of the task force, and here to present to you tonight our findings over the last pretty much the year of meetings that we've had. I was just a little background on myself. I was born in Newport and raised in Derby for about 32 years. I currently live in Westfield with my family, and I'm still pretty involved in the community. My whole family lives in Derby, so from Westfield to Derby, I have to go through Newport every time. So I'm involved with the local ambulance. I work per diem for Newport Ambulance as a paramedic, and I work full-time for the city of South Burlington as a fire captain and paramedic down there as well. So that's kind of how I got drafted into this wonderful group of monthly meetings. So basically tonight what I'm going to do is just present to you some of the findings that we found as we started to meet, and then some of the proposals that we have moving forward. Next slide. Here's our group of task force members. It's a pretty large group, and you're probably wondering how I ended up being the person to stand up here in front of you tonight. I also do not know. I think I must have missed the meeting when I was nominated. We have a good potpourri of members here. We've got Newport City Fire members. We've got Newport City residents. We have the current fire chief, retired fire chief, so that gives us a lot of historical context. We have business owners. We have the City of Burlington Fire Chief, Michael Curtin, who's been sitting on the task force as well, and the current full-time administrative firefighter, Jeff Young, some newer members to the fire department, which is also important, and then, of course, myself. Our goals, which were explained to us by the mayor at the beginning, our very first meeting, were basically just evaluate what our current status is and how we're looking moving into the future. We needed to kind of develop practical, sustainable recommendations that align with capabilities, with community risk, operational demand, of course, fiscal responsibility, and public expectations. Just an overview of the fire department for those of you who don't know. They have about 33 members now that are paid on call, which means that once the pager goes off and the incident has been activated, the firefighters will get paid hourly for the duration of that call, as well as other training opportunities and stuff, correct? We do have one full-time administrative firefighter, Jeff Young. He spends weekdays at the fire station and many other hours making sure that the backbone of the fire department is staying in place and works close with the fire chief to make sure the paperwork gets done, the stuff that's not really so much fun. There's about 27 out of the 33 members are active. The primary fire services that Newport City provides are, of course, fire suppression, heavy rescue, so motor vehicle crashes, they'll respond to those, as well as industrial extrication. So they have training on how to remove people in what we call man versus machinery situations where somebody gets maybe an arm stuck in a machine. They have the tools and training for that. Marine and ice rescue, of course, thanks to our beautiful lake here. Hazardous materials, anything from a fuel spill at the local gas station to a powder substance that's not been identified. Anything that's not supposed to be, anything that's supposed to be in its container that comes out of its container, they can manage. And then, of course, community risk reduction, which is basically doing public education and trying to keep our call for service volumes to a minimum. Obviously, the less people call us, the better, because that way we know our community is safe. So in other words, we're just trying to constantly put ourselves out of a job. Slide. Here's an example of our equipment overview. We've got an engine, which is like the truck with all the hoses on it. Tower truck, the big ladder truck. Pumper tanker, so that's the newer truck that came. It's got 3,000 gallons of water in it. Ish. So that carries extra capacity of water versus the engine that carries less. Heavy rescue apparatus, UTV, which is fit for snowmobile, winter rescue, as well as summer operations. Swift water rescue boat, Zodiac, the airboat, of course, the brush truck for wildland firefighting, which is a smaller 1-ton vehicle that can go off-road. An air trailer with a cascade system, which is used throughout the county to supply other fire departments with air. So as we use air at fire scenes, this trailer will show up and fill the air bottles up, because we a lot of times don't have the capability to do that otherwise. And then there's specialty trailers and equipment as well that handle all sorts of different things, special operations, rope rescues, and that such. Here's a picture of our coverage area. The map on the left is the 911 map, and I apologize, it's probably a little bit convoluted to read, but you see the city of Newport outline is there as well. Newport City Fire also covers the northern, call it 2/3-ish of Coventry, as well as a very small portion of the town of Derby, which is just closer to the fire station up on top of the hill here. And just before you want to go back, sorry. So it's a total of 24.2 square miles. So we're, even though we're outside of the city, we cover outside of the city, we're taking everything into account because that's what we're responsible to responding to. Here's a little look at the kind of a 30,000-foot view of the calls that we've been on from 2018 to 2025. As you can see, we're headed on a steady incline. That's something that's happening nationwide. Fire departments are being called upon for a lot of things now, and it can be anything from a fire alarm to a structure fire to an animal in a tree to a duck in a storm drain. Pretty much, if people don't have the resources to handle it, they call the fire department, and we show up and try to problem solve. So we are expecting that trend to continue. It may plateau a little bit, but as the city develops, hopefully, and we see new businesses come in, that's going to, take a toll on emergency services. Everybody understands that, I'm sure. And the other thing with that too is as new buildings get built and they have to follow new building codes, come alarm systems. And alarm systems go off for all sorts of reasons, whether it's malicious or accidental. And the overlying issue with alarm systems is somebody has to respond to them. So even though it may be an accidental alarm, the fire department has the jurisdiction to reset those alarms. So somebody's got to go, taking people on the street, and it can be a little bit arduous for businesses to have to deal with an alarm that's going off while their business is evacuated. They're waiting for the fire department to come, solve the problem, and then reoccupy. So that stuff is going to increase as development in the city increases. As a group, we've been focused on looking at NFPA standard 1720, which is the standard for organization and deployment of fire suppression operations, EMS, and special operations to the public by volunteer fire departments. So that's really a lot of words just to describe the standards for volunteer fire departments, which include paid on-call fire departments as well. There's other standards out there that apply to career departments. We're not looking at those because we're trying to stay focused on what we are here in Newport, and it also kind of brings things into perspective, not trying to overdo what we're forecasting here. We're trying to keep it really focused on what does a volunteer / combination department look like? What's it supposed to look like? So our focus points are really broad, but I tried to bring them down to these 5 to 6 groups. Really focusing on matching what we have currently for staffing, apparatus, which is a fancy term for our fire trucks, and how we deploy them to community hazards and call demand. So do we need to deploy more trucks? Can we deploy less trucks? How do we do that efficiently? How do we keep people safe on the roads while we're going to calls? That's a large group and a large topic to look at and consider. Reliability is a big thing too for us. We're trying to make sure that whether it's at 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning, you're getting the response that you expect as a taxpayer in the city. As you know, a lot of people don't work in the cities that they live, the towns that they live in anymore. I commute an hour and a half for my job, so I'm a volunteer firefighter in my community. I'm not there during the day, and that happens to be the case here as well. So we want to try to make sure that as growth comes into the city, we're reasonably looking and forecasting out what we may need to do as a fire department to keep up with that growth. We're in a really good spot here as far as the fire department goes, because the fire department is in great shape right now, and we're watching the city hopefully grow around us, and we want to kind of track with that. We're not at a point where the city's way overgrown us, or the opposite, right? We're not overgrowing our city. So this was the perfect time to initiate the task force because it gives us an opportunity to stay in line with what's happening. Of course, firefighter and public safety is huge for us. We want to make sure that we are giving the firefighters the opportunity to train as they need, and it's also very important not only to send 4 firefighters to the scene, but make sure that there's some sort of command capacity there as well. You need somebody to be in charge. You can't send 4 brand new firefighters to a call in the middle of the day by themselves and not have somebody there in charge. Not saying that's happening now, but it's very important to make sure that we have that leadership figure going on calls as much as possible. Sustainability, of course, is important to us, so we're looking at around 5,500 residents, plus whatever residents that we cover in Coventry, just making sure that we're staying on track with that growth. Hopefully we have plenty of it and we can stay in line with that. Big thing we've been talking about is making sure that our decisions or our recommendations that we give to you are based on data. And that's really kind of the new catch term nowadays is data-driven decision making, right? Going to be more to come on this, but our goal is just to make sure that we are basing whatever recommendations we give you are on measurable data. We can give you a piece of paper and say, this is where we're at, this is where we're forecasted to go, this is why we need to do it. And we're not just kind of shooting in the wind. Data matters really specifically for response times. We want to know how long is it taking for the firefighters to get to the station, get a truck on the road, and then also how long is it taking for that truck on the road to get to the scene. And is it getting to the scene with the amount of firefighters that it's supposed to be getting there with? So 1710 provides us guidance on that. And this is a little figure that is pulled off on the website where it just kind of shows you for a typical residential structure fire, so 1 to 2 occupancy house fire, that's the amount of people that you're looking at getting. And you should have there just to make sure that everybody's safe. So you've got the ladder truck going with around 3 people. And you remember, for every truck that we send, 1 person needs to be there to run it. So you can't just send a truck with 2 people because now you've got 1 person to run it. The other firefighters just by themselves. We try to work in teams for safety. We have to worry about water supply. As you know, some of the hydrants in the city are a little subpar, so we have to worry about where are we going to get the water from. Do we need to add another truck into the mix to pump the water to where we need it to be? And the little buggy on the bottom there, that's your little red chief's vehicle there. And it's important that gets to go to calls as well too. And more importantly, he's got a little firefighter next to him, so that's a chief's aide, right? So that's somebody that's helping the chief with everything that's going on, providing guidance on scene, being another set of eyes for the chief on these calls. Not going to dive into this too crazy right now because, again, we're trying to make sure that the backbone of what we're looking at for data is appropriate before we make any sort of recommendations for staffing. Incomplete or inconsistent incident reporting causes lack of reliable data, which makes it hard for us to make decisions. When we met with the mayor for our first meeting, we had the introduction of what could be happening potentially in the city if all goes well. And we started looking at, well, what do we go on for calls? How are we tracking our calls? What are our response times? And we found that there is a considerable lack of inadequate data. I really don't know how to say it other than that. We weren't, through the last, decade or so plus, a lot of times the calls were recorded on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which makes it hard to analyze. So we gathered a lot of that stuff, that hard copy stuff, and thanks to Justin LaForce here, he put it all on Excel, turned it into a spreadsheet that we could analyze. And we found a lot of gaps in there where we're just not able to get super accurate data to make these decisions. We're looking at call types, what types of calls are we going on, what are our trends, are fires going up, are fires going down, and then what's our geographic demand, what part of the city requires most of the amount of response from us. Is it the east end of the city, is it the west end, is it downtown? All that stuff comes into consideration when we're talking about trying to figure out where we're going to go from here. We're just using outdated processes. I've got an example of this coming up here, and we just spent a lot of time. I mean, we went through 3 or 4 meetings just processing some of the data and trying to piece it together, and we weren't able to make decisions on that. So it can make it very hard for us to present to you what we need, and also it's a huge liability not having the documentation. And again, I must say, this is no fault to anybody prior to this task force being set up. This is happening all around the U.S., right? We're moving from a world of hard copy to digital, and there's a huge transition that comes with that. Next slide. So currently, this is what our workflow looks like. So on the left is a piece of paper that is drafted every time a call goes out, and as you can see, it's handwritten. The black part on the bottom is the name of the members that are attended at the call. I just blacked it out for this purpose of the meeting. We take that information there, and you can see, in this case, the call went out at 0509, which is 5 in the morning. We take that, and then the dispatch center downstairs emails us what all of their dispatch times are for that call. And as you can see, it is a soup of numbers and times that we have to try to sort through. We had to, in the past, we've had to extrapolate from well, how long approximately did we think did it take us to get there? Are we Google mapping from the station to the incident address? That's not accurate either. Just a lot of issues with putting these two pieces together, and then we would take those and manually put them into the nearest platform, which is National Emergency Response Information System. So that's the big US database where all fire calls in the United States go into. That allows us to track fire trends nationally. We also can track if a fire was caused by a certain product, we can put that in there, and then they can say, well, over the last week, we've had 10 fires nationally caused by this product, we may need to recall it. So all the stuff we're putting in there is very, very important. It's just very clunky, and in the end, we're not able to really, even though we do that, it's still very hard to process. And this nearest system is something new that just came this year. It used to be a system called NFIRS, which was even more clunky than it is now. So that's the current problem that we have. I just wanted to touch on a piece of inaccurate times that we found, and I apologize, this was supposed to be animated, but I turned it into a PDF. So on the left, you see the time 8 a.m. to 8:01 a.m. So to the common folk, that's 1 minute apart, correct? Well, in the fire service world, the emergency service world, where they say seconds count, it's actually 1 minute and 59 seconds. We, for a long time, have been tracking all of our times down to the minute and leaving the seconds out, and that, believe it or not, makes some huge inaccuracies when we're doing data processing, because we're off by 1 minute and 59 seconds. So sometimes it may look like it took us way longer to get to a call. Sometimes it may look like we got there way before we did. So that's just kind of an example of how important seconds are in the emergency services world. And that stuff compiled one on top of another can make real issues for us. So all that being said, I've talked about our data deficiencies. One thing that we are recommending is a records management system. Records management systems now are being used by everyone from police departments to city clerks to water departments, right? It's that digital way of recording all your ins and your outs, what you're doing daily, and built into that software is a way to process it. It just makes it a lot easier. It allows us to make decisions based on measurable trends, and we can get those trends immediately. So if the mayor says, hey, how many calls have you gone on to right now? What's the busiest day of the week? The chief or the administrative firefighter can pull it up and say, you know, our busiest day of the week is Wednesday at 2 p.m. So therefore, we need to make adjustments like this, right? There's other things, and of course, incident reports are legal documents, right? So we want them to be as accurate as possible, because if a firefighter gets injured or killed, or a civilian gets killed, and this gets brought into court, we want to make sure that we have the most accurate and complete data, and there was no extrapolation or guesswork. It is what it is, right? Other things that the records management system does is track assets, so you can put your vehicles in there, your fire trucks, your maintenance that you have to do on those fire trucks, your personnel tracks, your training records, which is very important, pre-incident plan data, which I'll talk about in a little bit more in depth and detail. That incident notification is how the firefighters get the call. So the call goes out, the dispatch center does their thing on the computer, and it sends it out to the firefighters' phones and radios, of course, but as you know, everybody likes to use their phones nowadays. This will also do that as well. We want to be able to notify the public, right? So if there's a fire that closes a street down, right from the streets, we could potentially notify the public and say, hey, this street is closed because of this. And then in the future, as the town, city grows, if we decide to get into a little bit more permitting, or we currently do burn permits, or inspections or something like that, we'll have something to be able to track it. And it'll all tie together. And anytime we work in one module, it'll tie into another, and it'll all speak to each other. Next slide. So this is a little graphic of our current incident workflow. So we'll start from the left. So that's the I Am Responding app. So a call goes out, say it's a fire, or any type of call. It pushes out to the phones of the firefighters. They get the I Am Responding app. They can see where the call is. It shows them a map. They can go on there and hit, I'm responding, or I'm not available, so they kind of have an idea of who's coming to the call. Then they have to move to the next app. Once they get in the fire truck and go to the scene, that's the little blue circle there. That's what we use for pre-plans. So that has a map on there, and it shows this building has these hazards associated with it. And that's all important information for us, because if the fire is in the back corner of the building and our pre-plan map says that there's hazardous materials back there, that's special tactical considerations need to take into place. So this is information they're pulling up in the truck on the way to the call. Then they've got to find out hydrant locations, right? So where's the closest hydrant? Yes, we could probably look when we get on scene, but because seconds count, it's important for us to look ahead of time and know where we're going to go, where's the closest hydrant. Then we need to talk to Newport Police, the dispatch center, right? So that's happening on the radio. There's multiple apps going on. At the end of the call, we fill out the little sheet of paper, and then at that point, we put it all into Excel, hopefully process it, and then we can move on to the next, right? So there's a lot of things going on all at once, and it can make it unsafe for the firefighters responding to the call, as well as the after part of it being a little bit confusing for data processing. Next slide. So one of the things that we're proposing is the task force is getting a RMS software. I don't know if you figured that out by now. And there are multiple vendors of RMS software. The one we're looking at closely to is First Due. And full disclosure, I don't work for First Due. I don't get any financial compensation from First Due. But we do use that in Chittenden County. A lot of fire departments use it. And statewide, some of the smaller fire departments are using it as well. And the nice thing is the more fire departments that use it, it ties together so that if Newport goes to Derby and if Derby uses it, we can see each other's stuff, which is huge. But part of First Due software is it's modular. So you don't have to purchase a huge, very expensive software program. You can pick the parts and pieces that you need based on the size of your fire department. Next slide. So the important things that First Due does is it does assets and inventory, tracks that, hydrant locations. It provides that mobile responder, so it allows the firefighters to see where the call is. pre-incident planning. It does EMS and fire reporting. We're not worried about EMS reporting at this point. Scheduling and personnel, if in the future we ever decided to have people on during the day, we'd already have that capability. We just turn the module on. It tracks our training, so if the chief needed to find out, well, how much training have we done on water rescue this year? Boom, a couple quick buttons, and it pulls up a whole breakout of where his members are on water rescue training. Events, activities, community risk reduction, so this has a component in it that the citizens can interact with. So if the citizens have, say they have an issue with access. So my grandmother lives at this address and she is unable to get out of the house on her own if there's a fire. I can report that into the system. It'll go into our database so we know if we're going to 123 Main Street and my grandmother lives there, she's probably not going to be able to get out on her own. So there's a lot of parts and pieces to this that help make it all work as one smooth operation. So here's the big thing that we're really focused on specifically with this is we need to make recommendations to the city council, but we need the data to do it. So this, once we start getting, and it's going to take years, right, as we grow, years of data, we can now start pulling it and saying, this is what we need to make for changes, this is what we recommend. And we're making it based on what we have and what we're seeing. We're not just picking a random department in the state of Vermont that may be similar to Newport and saying, well, they have this, we need this. We're making the decisions based on what we need in Newport. And this is just a small piece of all the data that it provides. You can model this and create whatever you need for this page. Next slide. The pre-incident planning that I talked about, so this is a screenshot of, let's just say, sorry Dave, I got a structure fire scenario at 450 Main Street built by Newport. No bad luck on you there. So what would happen is dispatch would put this out, 450 Main Street, Newport. This would pop up on the phones of the firefighters. They'd see the map, where the building is, the address. The other unit's responding, so in this scenario here, it's the Derby line sending an engine 2, ladder 6. Shows everybody that's going, or supposed to be going, and then it gives you the narrative information, so they can see the details right now. Right now, all that stuff needs to be looked up on a separate app. Next slide. What they can do is on the way to the call, they can zoom in, and because they've already gone to 450 Main Street and pre-planned it, they've walked through the facility, they've talked to the owner, they know that in the back storage shed there's hazardous materials. This is just made up. I don't know if there's actually hazardous materials in there, but it's important because now they know, oh, okay, if the fire is reported in the warehouse next to the train tracks, we might be dealing with hazmat, right? So this is all information that gets inputted in that we can pull up later. Next slide. Another scenario would be a hazmat, 20 gallons of gasoline spilled at Cumberland Farms. Again, the address pops up on the screen. They can see things like there's a little fire signal, fire symbol on the gas pumps, hazardous flammable materials, and the little red circle indicates that there's a generator in the back parking lot, different things that may cause hazards to us. Another scenario, carbon monoxide alarm at 531 West Main Street. The CO alarm is activated and the residents are feeling ill. So in this scenario here, it shows on the map exactly where the house is. And then next slide, as they zoom in, they can see, well, the house also has a vicious dog and there's an electric fence around the property. Things that will present a hazard to firefighters as they're responding. Again, this is just random. I have no idea who owns it. It's just a random picture. Actually, go back one more. So the other thing too on this is to see the incident status. In the truck, they can actually hit on scene, available to the station, which will automatically feed back to dispatch. So if the dispatch is busy, there's less radio communication going on. So a lot of different parts and pieces here with this software. Yep. So this is the nearest incident reporting. So remember I talked about we took that hard copy paper, we merged it and extrapolated times from dispatch, and then we moved it into nearest, the national database. Well, this does it for you. It does it on every single call. So as soon as that call is generated from dispatch, it creates this in here. Whoever's doing the report would go over, hit the play button. It would open up the report and you'd have to fill out all the applicable boxes. As soon as you hit complete, it sends it right to the national database. There's one less step that we have to worry about. It all goes automatic. Asset management is huge. So all the trucks can be loaded into this. Anytime there is a mechanical issue or service is done to this truck, they can all be put into the system under that truck. And next year from now, if you wanted to see, boy, I think it might be, I feel like engine 2 has caused us a lot of mechanical issues. We've been putting a lot of money into it. You can query right from here and it'll say, over the last year you spent X amount of money on it. These are all the repairs you've done. And now you can say, Mr. Mayor, we need a new truck. So that's just an example of what it could be used for. Training management as well. I talked about this a little bit, so we can put down what topics we're training on, how long we trained on it, who was there for training, and then it allows us at the end of the year to query this, because the fire chief at some point needs to send that information to the Vermont Fire Academy for recert to get the firefighter 1 and 2 certification. Shouldn't be blank. There we go. Random slide in there. So the following are our current recommendations as of right now, and this is not going to be done overnight or the next week. It's going to take, some of these things are going to take years to do as we move forward as a city. So obviously we need to implement an RMS system. That needs to be done sooner than later. We got to start capturing our data electronically so that we can move forward and take directions as a task force. Evaluate call volume trends, staffing availability, and how are we going to move with a growing city. Evaluate our mutual aid dependency. So what that means is how often are we relying on mutual aid and how often is mutual aid relying on us. Those two pieces of information can allow us to make decisions based on do we have enough members, or are there certain times of days where we're calling other departments and we could be a burden to another town, right? And vice versa, right? Are our trucks going out the door all the time to the next town's over? We need to be able to track that a little bit more efficiently than we are now. Track organizational effectiveness over time, support modernization while reducing taxpayer burden, and that's where that RMS system is nice because we can just piece it together as we need. We don't need to spend a large amount of money on a system that's going to be way bigger than what we build it for the size of Newport. And then always pursuing funding opportunities such as grants, donations, etc. to help get us where we need to go. That's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm happy to answer any questions.
Stay right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
And before we even begin with questions, we've had 3 other task forces active in the last year, and they made regular reports to council, and therefore we had an opportunity to say thank you to those members of those task forces consistently through the year, because this is the first presentation we've had from this task force. We really haven't had that opportunity, but we have said thank you numerous times in your absence and recognize that there's work going on behind the scenes. It's pretty obvious now that it's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And so I just want to kind of note that there are a lot of people who have a stake in this and who really care enough to give significant time. So on behalf of the council, I want to say thank you very much to you, Roger, and to all of you in the room and those who are not able to be here tonight for your work on this over the last year.
Yeah, there's, again, I'm just the poor guy that got asked to speak. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, people pulling different things for this presentation. I'd really like to point out Justin LaForce here he's on the fire department. He did a lot of data analyzation and taking things from paper form and putting it on a spreadsheet. And so that was our first big step, so thank you, Justin, for that.
Council members, do you have comments or questions you want to lift up? Don't know where to start, right? I guess one thing I want to say is that I hear that the most immediate ask is, or kind of expectation, is that we would move ahead with an RMS system as quickly as possible. So I want to report to the council that the chief and I have been talking about this for months now, several months, and we believe that we have it's within our financial capability to kind of split the cost of the initial upfront cost of this software over this year, the current fiscal year that we're in, and the next fiscal year. And so I don't think we're really even looking for anything other than the council's awareness that we're trying to move in that direction. Just to give you an example, and please correct me, folks, if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that basically we're looking at an unbudgeted expense this year of about $5,000, in addition to about $3,000 that we had already budgeted for stuff that will be obsolete software. We will no longer need it. if we go with the RMS system. And that next year, we'd be looking at something similar, about $5,000, $6,000 more than what we budgeted. So, and then from there on, obviously, we'll be able to just cover it because we'll be budgeting for it appropriately. So in the meantime, this year and next year, what we're looking for is ways that we can figure out how to come in under budget in other areas in order to try and make this work. Did I state that appropriately?
That's right on.
Okay.
So you have to pay a yearly fee for it, you pay a
Yes.
installation type, and then it's a yearly.
Yeah, Kevin, it's just come up with Roger here, so we don't.
with.
Yeah, don't go far.
So, yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, thank you, Roger, that was amazing. No, thank you. I'm good. After I speak here for about 3 minutes, you'll understand why Roger presented and I didn't, but. Yeah, so right now, so currently, the programs that we have, cost us X amount of dollars, around $2,600 a year. The initial startup for this new system has a $1,400 startup fee, which is only applicable to the first year. Next year, that would be dropped. So the total cost would drop, considerably. And we can also, as Roger mentioned, we can also piece together what we need out of that program. This cost that was given to us is with the full gamut of everything that they offer. So we may start out with everything on there, and then see that, hey, we really don't need this at this point yet, and we can whittle it back a little bit. But at this point, until we get the new NERS system where we're doing our reporting, we didn't realize how inadequate our numbers were that we needed, which affects insurance, city insurance, grants. So there's a lot that rides on this, and we appreciate you guys listening and hopefully understand it. Go forward.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
Other questions, council members? Members of the community, are there comments or questions on this report tonight? Yes, Ann, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, gentlemen, take a seat, and then we'll call you back up if we need. I apologize for the heat in here tonight, everybody.
Maybe the road
I have, first of all, a curiosity. I think you mentioned some other uses. Do you know whether or not this system could be used by Public Works to monitor its vehicles and how much they were being used and when they needed repair, et cetera, or is it exclusively for the fire department?
It's a good question. Come back to the mic, please, Kevin.
I have one other.
Roger, go ahead.
Yeah. So it does not have a Public Works application yet, but they just launched a police application for it that ties into it. So, I'm not going to speak for Chief Bingham at all, but it's growing. One of the biggest, if I may, one of the biggest things that's great about this software is there's huge Vermont support. A lot of and I don't want to misspeak, but some of the founders of this program were a lot of them are from St. Michael's College. So they have a lot of the St. Michael's alumni and people that live in Vermont are actually support technicians for this. So it's, Vermont is near and dear to their heart, and they're easy to get a hold of if we have issues. But yeah, back to your original question, you wouldn't be able to monitor DPW stuff. I'm sure there's other software for that.
Ann, you have another question?
Yeah, just one other question. I noticed in the annual report that the Coventry share was about $29,000, and the total budget for the fire department was about $240,000. And I was just curious, how many calls per year approximately are Coventry? How many calls are basically the rest of Newport? And are they paying their fair share? And would they get to pay their fair share of this as well?
So,
yeah, if you can go back.
Well, no, do you want to explain further how that's derived?
Only in the 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah, I can't do even the 30,000. I'd have to do the 100,000.
Well, so I wasn't really involved with the process much until I stepped in for my 2-month chief stint. But that's a nice story.
I knew you'd gripe about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not griping. I'm excited to do this. So Coventry's percentage is based on total calls of Newport City Fire. So if we do 250 calls, and then we do, let's say, I don't know what the number is.
Just make a number.
20 or 25 calls, that they take a 3-year average of our calls and the percentage is based on that number, yeah.
And that was renegotiated, I believe, a year and a half
It was
ago.
just, yeah, it was just, Mayor Sullivan
Yes.
just renegotiated that.
Thanks.
So like with a new truck and stuff, they pay a percentage of that. So yes, they would be paying a portion of this new program. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Any other questions? Lori, go ahead.
Lori Graham, resident of Newport. So from someone who works with IT companies that like to add this and make it all work together and all the bells and whistles, I appreciate that you guys want to take your time and figure out what exactly we need. And I just want to make sure that that's your plan, because sometimes, and maybe with this being more Vermont related, we won't find that. But it is really important to not look at the bells and whistles, but to look at the real need. And that's what I hear you saying. I just want to make sure that that's the way we're going, because, you know, we do want to try to keep the budgets tight. We do want to look at those things all the time. And I know exactly what it's like to have a company go, hey, look at this, and then 6 months later they change it, and you've got to change it, and you've got to spend more money, and then it turns out it's not something that you really need.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering with that startup fee, if that was like training incorporated from the software company, because that's probably the most, okay.
I believe, yes, yeah.
I see not heading, they don't have to go to my.
Yes, training and support.
Support,
as well. So if you have an issue, you submit a ticket, they're gonna support you.
Awesome. And yeah, I just want to commend the work, obviously volunteer fire department, so instrumental for public safety. Also in the landscape of Vermont for emergency services and coordination and all of that is the funding, at least on the regional level, is running up. So like just any sort of internal or local / mutual aid communication, I think is going to be paramount, especially as we look at natural disasters. We've been really fortunate in Newport, but our folks down south, and even in Morgan, there's just hotspots where communication between fire districts, the fire departments will be so paramount to saving lives. So, yeah, I'm in support of any sort of software that gives you guys better data, better communication, and also supports y'all safety. So thank you. Yeah, and doing that data analog, bless your heart.
Other council members, any other comments or questions? Andrew, let me just ask you, I don't think we're looking for a particular action tonight. Is that correct? There's, other than the awareness on the council's part that we're in the process of trying to finish investigating and perhaps move ahead on an RMS system.
That is correct. And I want to also echo Roger's sentiments. Everybody on the task force, especially Justin, the amount of work and Roger tonight presenting, perfect. We knew. Thank you for missing that last meeting. We greatly appreciate it.
Be sure not to miss any in the future.
No, so we do. It's a lot of work, and it showed tonight. So thank you all very much, and we're going to continue obviously moving forward, but there's a lot more to follow as well. So thank you to each task force member.
And I'll just add, come back anytime. I think we are very interested in what you're working on. So if you have moments where you're thinking, okay, this feels like a pretty significant kind of value choice we're making here, and we ought to go talk to council about it, we'd be thrilled to have you come and have a conversation with us anytime.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, we're very fortunate to have, a council member that's also on the fire department that we're able to.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay, I'm going to move us on to item number 8. And if you're part of Troop 811, I'll just tell you that there are a couple of other items here that I expect to be pretty short. We will create an opportunity for you to escape with dignity if you want, before we launch into a half-hour conversation about the budget. Okay? So, and the financial report. So, you're welcome to go anytime, but I just want you to know there's a moment coming soon where we'll create that moment. So, Chief, if you would come and just discuss a little bit about the bird permit, and on your way to the mic, I just want to say one more thing. And I give Kevin a hard time because he often gives himself a hard time about the fact that he's ended up in this position that he volunteered to take for 2 months, I think almost 2 years ago. And when I came onto council a little over 2 years ago, this was among the thorniest challenges we had. There'd been a transition, a constant transition of leadership in the fire department. Morale was not high, and the number of trained firefighters who were on the roster was dwindling, not growing, and the number who were willing to respond in an incident was, in my judgment, dangerously low. I think we all agreed on that. And I'll just say that a year and a half later, largely because of the leadership of our chief and his top leadership in the department, and I don't think we can understate the genius of the position we created of administrative firefighter and the work that Jeff has done on all our behalfs to kind of bring some order out of the chaos. And a year later, those numbers that we were looking at, the one number that wasn't there that at some point I'd love to talk more about is how many people are actually responding, because my judgment is that's gone up dramatically in the last year.
Yeah, well, and I mean, just to address that, Mr. Mayor, a little bit, that part of that is also businesses that are allowing employees to respond through the day. I mean, we are extremely grateful for a business that allows employees. I'm gonna single out Dave. Justin is there through the day working, and the minute the tones go out, I always know I can count on Justin. I'm telling you that it's huge. We're not having people in the area working, that's huge, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Pretty sure he's been sneaking out for donuts or something.
But you know, you don't realize it until you have an incident. It takes a lot of guys on a fire scene to cover what you need. I mean, you take 10 guys showing up at even an alarm, and before you know it, everyone has a task. They've dissipated, they're gone. You look around, there's nobody there. So, you know, it takes a lot of personnel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Chief, what have we got in front of us for this permit?
Yeah, so I appreciate your time again. So the mayor and I have been talking about, and also Andrew, about burn permitting in the city of Newport. And my understanding is that I believe that there was a burn, or is a burn permit, but there's really nothing in the charter. Is that kind of correct?
As far as I can tell, there's certainly nothing in the charter, and I don't think we have an active ordinance at this point.
Yeah, so we had, the city of Newport Fire Department had an ordinance, and I took it, I reworked it a little bit. I brought it to the mayor at one of our department head meetings. I believe the council hasn't had a chance to look. Rick added a few notes to it, and we basically have a guideline that I would like to see have the council approve and possibly put according to the charter. It's broken down into 2 different areas. We have a burn permit guideline for debris, brush, eggs, etc. You know, nothing, no pressure treated, no painted, no lead or anything like that. And then there's also a separate area describing campfires and what's permissible. I mean, people like to sit around their house at night and have a small fire with a family or whatever. That's
which is permitted in this proposed rule
Yeah.
without a permit.
Correct.
Right?
Correct, yeah.
As long as it stays within the guidelines.
And then again, if this is accepted, I believe Kerry has the permitting for the debris burning, you know, brush it, whatever, will go on the Newport City website. And that's where Kerry still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where you'll end up going to get the permitting and et cetera. But, yeah.
Council members, you have any questions about the permit? It was in the packet for those in the community who were looking for it.
So there was, or maybe an ordinance on the subject?
We have not been able to track down an existing ordinance at the moment.
So, so I had something at the fire department that I found in a folder, and I don't know what the date was on it, and I don't know that it was ever in the city charter. I don't know if it was something that one of the chiefs come up with and just said, hey, we're gonna do this, but it was never really formally adopted, I believe.
Yeah, I think an ordinance is the place for it rather than the charter.
Right, it's not a charter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the state laws on the subject, but I gather there's some state laws that allow bans, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think the big thing with that is, like last year, we all remember the super dry fall that we had, July. We remember, you know, the fires up north in Canada and stuff, and we're basically saying, and, we're basically saying that if the state issues a no burn ordinance, it's really gonna have to apply across the board to the city of Newport. No burning, because, what comes to mind is Friday Beach over there with the campers. You hate to go over there and say, hey, you can't have a fire setting around your camper, but at what risk, for a few nights. So, yeah, whatever the state would pose would supersede this.
So are you a fire warden? And
Yes.
like that was an appointment that we made?
Yes.
So then you'd have like a jurisdiction of the fire
Yes.
warden to grant or deny or revoke
Right.
a permit that was.
And that's the other part of that, like even with a campfire, there's no burning permit with campfires, but if you're having a fire and the wind is blowing and they just got their windows open and you're probably gonna be asked to put it out. We all have to be good rangers, so. But that's it.
Any other questions or comments, council members? Members of the community, any comments or questions about the proposed ordinance? Okay, hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve the ordinance as presented by the chief. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Just a question, this really isn't an ordinance as much as it is a set of guidelines at this point.
Okay, so we'll just call it what are we going to call it, John?
Well, exactly what it says in the caption.
A burn permit.
Guidelines.
Okay, so thank you. The motion that Carter's just made, whether she really fully understood it or not, was a motion to approve the burn permit guidelines presented by the chief. Okay, yes, we have a yes from Carter, and we have a second from John. Any further discussion?
Smart sense.
What's that?
It's smart sense.
It's smart sense. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Where'd you go, chief? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the proposed memorandum of understanding between Newport Downtown Development and the City of Newport City Council. I'll remind folks that I have been recusing myself from all conversations about this because of my position as Executive Director of Newport Downtown Development. So I'm going to turn the conversation over to Carter, and I'm going to go sit in the office. Call me when you're done.
Alrighty, I believe we have some special guests that are going to join this conversation. I think Sarah really like that better. It's okay, yeah, thank you, Andrew, for this. That'll be helpful. Is it on now? See, that's a lot better. Was that the break for the scouts to be relieved, do you think? I think so. Scouts, if you need, but I know this is contract negotiations and talking about economic development is critical to local government, but it's also very warm and you guys have been very patient and sitting here for an hour. So I honor that and appreciate y'all being here. So I'll look to Ivy to lead, but.
So we can go right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And make sure you pick up everything. I don't want to leave anything. Got everything?
Before I discuss it, my kid said, let's sing happy birthday.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, not really. With great power. Okay, all right, so MOU with Newport Downtown Development and the City of Newport. I would like to hear about the process. I know you guys met, you guys struck through. I see some clear additions and revisions, but
Excuse me, is there somewhere that we can put cans? Is there recycling?
You can leave them on the table.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you for being concerned about recycling. Appreciate you. Okay. All right. Just making sure we're all good. So Sharon and Andrew, I was wondering if you guys could talk about the process and then we can get the nitty gritty, I guess, just a recap. Yes.
So we met twice around this table, and we started by going over the original from December 16th, 2024, and we just went line by line, item by item, and of course I had a ton of questions, so they had to get me up to speed, which they very graciously did. But I think one of the biggest overall changes is the original, in the very introduction, is to prepare the city to submit an application for a TIF district. That was kind of like stage or phase one. Now, you'll see a difference in wording, because we can think of it now as more of stage two, where instead of preparing to submit, we're now looking at more of an assist the city, and we're going beyond TIF. The original was really working through the TIF process, but we're more than that. And now you'll see the words, the detailed master plan. So we may be, and I really like the word proposed or potential. That was a good word to add. It's a potential TIF or potential CHIP, because CHIP wasn't part of 24 because it wasn't a thing then.
Exactly.
It is now. Along with working with related developer agreements. So it's like we've gone another level, and we tried to reflect that in the new MOU. So you can see all these papers, This was all the process we went over, and you couldn't read them after a while, and maybe print them. I had to print them again. Another that we had a good conversation about at our last meeting is, who's documenting this? Where's all the documentation? Because it kind of fell nicely with what the fire chief said. It's data, and you got to keep that data somewhere. Someone's got to be responsible for it. So you'll see that that's been added in the third bullet from the end on the new draft. We're talking about documentation and the fact that that's being done through this group now. Another piece that I had to have explained to me was, what's the vibrancy fund all about? And if I didn't know from reading the old one, because it wasn't addressed in the old one, no one else is going to know either. So I felt it important that that become part of the MOU now. And what that vibrancy fund shows us is that the state wants to see that municipalities are contributing and not just leaving it all to an organization like Newport Downtown to do. Thus, we have the 30,000 from us, and then the state puts money in what they call their vibrancy fund. So we have that. And Andrew, what else did I miss? And those were the biggies. It's just updating language, updating the fact we're on another phase.
And again, the big thing is the detailed master plan as opposed to a TIF or a CHIP or both, right? Because there's more to it than just maybe a CHIP or a TIF. Right? It's broad based, it's widespread, and it covers a lot actually. And one thing I do want to say to the NDD folks is the amount of time that you guys have put into it, and the amount of work that has gone into the current documentation. And I know there may be a plan moving forward once we hire a city manager and so on to kind of turn that stuff over or work with the city manager with that. But I can't say enough again how much work has gone into keeping that stuff organized and at the ready, because a lot of the funding is going through, you have to show in order to get reimbursed where all this money has come from, where all this money has been spent, so you have to keep detailed invoices and so on and so forth. So, and that right now is being done by the NDD team, and I can't thank them enough for that.
Another change was, we thought it would be easier to maintain and if we ended this agreement at the end of our fiscal year. It was at the end of December, mid-December. So by going with the fiscal year, it's just keeps us on track a little better.
And then plus the council, that whoever comes to the board in March, they can get up to speed and then make the informed decision versus signing off and then 2 months later. Yeah.
Or after we do the extension.
Yeah. I appreciate in addition, I saw that there will be quarterly reporting, although it seems we get time with Dave about that rotation and repetition, but, you know, nonetheless, it's baked into this agreement that we do have every 1 month check in with y'all and get an update. And another change that I saw, or just again, I mean, kind of underscoring what Andrew said earlier, but the grant work is labor intensive, it's details, it's intense, and right now, without a city manager, we really do need somebody that's following those and being that continuous source of either a grant administrator or also just naming that y'all have the capacity to manage and administrate continuing. So also on the back, I know you are volunteers and y'all do have some employees.
Real jobs too.
Yes. But nonetheless, yeah, we're as a city, I can say we're really grateful because y'all have been pulling in a lot of grant funds to pay for this work. So although the vitality money, which we have approved and is baked in for the next couple of years to match the state funding, y'all are also pulling in your own resources and yeah, making it go much further than the city would without. So yeah. Okay. John, did you have any questions?
No, you covered it.
All right. No more questions or sorry, if there's no more questions up here, then I'll put it over here. Do y'all have any, public have any questions or comments? And if we do, like Rick, I'm gonna ask that you come to the mic. I saw Laura's hand first.
As I've read sort of quickly down the document, excuse me, and you've mentioned a little bit, I don't see city manager listed in here. And just for maybe some historical purposes, as I'm seeing this is a direct relationship with NDD and the council, which includes the select board and the mayor. And because in the past, our city manager was part of what was the precursor to NDP, and I'm saying that more of us as purposeful separation of those duties. I'm just wondering if that's the purpose of leaving that out, if it really truly is a coordination between, I recognize the next city manager as part of all of these greater conversations, but what we're doing is establishing a proper connection between NDD and the city, represented by the city council. Am I correct in that, or?
Well, we had this conversation at our last meeting, and we talked about the fact that we talked about putting the word city manager in this MOU. And then we thought, maybe that's the next step next year, when we hire a city manager to get acclimated to the city of Newport and everything that goes on. And they'll still be a part of this, but maybe they're not the ones keeping the documentation right now, or they're not the ones driving the MOU, but next year, after that, hopefully we have a person who will get their feet wet that first year, and then we think that should be part of the MOU next year, that they're directly stated in it. Right around that was the conversation we had.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, I actually appreciated seeing that the city, how it was worded, a collaborative process with the mayor and city council of Newport, because we are here to represent the long-term goal. City manager is the person pulling together those pieces, and as underlined, that's critical for when they get more oriented and they're carrying out the day-to-day operations. They should be able to do some grant, or at least tracking it and working closely with the downstairs office. So, I can see that transition happening, but for now, and I would also like to see still that these check-ins and things like that we are informed. That way it's open meeting, the public is aware. So, right,
I was was really happy to hear Dave say that education would be beginning with respect to possible ways of getting money and the development going. I mean, obviously, we talked in the past about TIFs and about CHIP to a lesser degree. But the language here that I would ask you to consider changing, because we need public education with respect to both the pros and the cons of each of the possible funding sources. So for instance, probably over the last 3 or 4 years, started in the library, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a conversation about TIF at that time, and there were questions asked about, you know, what happens when the citizens of Newport have signed on the line for enormous amounts of debt. I think I've heard one Whitenburg representative mention that it could be 20 million at one time that we're on the line for. And then what happens if the contractor or developer fails during this process? And who's on the line for that money, and what could happen? And now it's very clear that that is not a likely scenario. All of this effort is obviously to try to make sure that that doesn't happen. But nonetheless, it's there, and I don't think that people understand or have been trained or educated as to what it looks like if that happens, you know, given the proper percentages of whether or not it could happen. So I think that this should read in bullet 3 that including project renderings, timelines, and the pros and cons of each funding source required to achieve the objectives, because most people have not heard about what happens if it fails. And they're entitled to know that, because you're going to ask them at some point to vote on one loan and then another loan and then another loan. And we all know that it's the, what do we call it, the momentum that generates eventually, hopefully, the monies that will pay for some of the stuff that's gone before. But people need to know fully and fairly about it. So I would ask you to consider adding that so that it's clear that it's part of the MOU, that education doesn't include just rah-rah and this is wonderful and this is how we're doing everything and just sign on the line, but includes where we could possibly get hurt. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, this is exactly why I really wanted to have this done in May, now, before the end of June, so we can go back and think about and consider the conference. So saying thank you, and I wrote that down.
Yeah, and
I think that's a good one.
the fourth bullet point, the last line says, this will include the coordination with local, state, regional, federal funding agencies to identify and secure appropriate funding sources to support private partners, okay, whatever, we over that. But if we can illuminate again whenever it says funding sources, like
Yeah, it might be a
appropriate,
good place to put it down in that bullet, that fourth bullet as well.
yeah, just like to reiterate, because
Yeah.
that is part of the
I'll
education
draw-
front,
I'll work on that.
so.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Jen.
Okay, Jennifer Hopkins. Hopefully I'm reading the same document you guys are reading. I'm reading what was online, because I'm getting confused about the fourth bullet point. I think it's very good, but you've got a page of assumptions, and under assumption bullet point 2.1, it says as previously approved by the City Council, Walmart development funds designated for direct costs associated with the broader 2024 master plan shall be available to cover any expenses and/or contracts not funded through grant sources. That seems to be incredibly open-ended. And it just, that sort of concerns me. I know that the Walmart funds are not, never ending. But the question is, should there be a cap? Because if it is all sort of going on Ann's point, what happens when disaster strikes and suddenly you have the contract, you don't have the funding? And this, are we blowing away the money we have? So that's just my sort of question point, whatever.
Thank you, just reading in. Any other comments or questions?
Can you address that, please? Jennifer's point is a really good one.
Oh, we're gonna go back and have a
Yes, I think
conversation.
so. Yeah.
I wrote it.
And I was reading it and.
I was quiet because I was trying to figure out how to reword it.
Yeah.
That's why I was.
All right, it looks like we'll go back to the drawing board. This is again a draft and.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I personally don't think we're ready to vote on it tonight. Right? I think we need to be cognizant of those comments and the good ones, and I think we need to. We had quite the conversation about the Walmart article. And in knowing how to word it. And I was a math teacher, not an English teacher, and I find it challenging. But I hear exactly what you're saying. But trying to figure out how to word it is
Not easy.
not easy. So, yeah. David's good at it, he's better at it than I am. And between all of us putting our heads together, we'll come up with something. And it's not due, the extension is till the end of June. So we still have time to work on this and to present it again, which is the process I really wanted to see happen. So I appreciate the comment and I appreciate the process.
On the last one, how the Walmart fund has been deployed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how that has been funds leveraged to match and acquire other grants. So I wonder if whenever we bring this back to the table, we can have some more concrete examples of how those funds have been used to advance.
I spend a
American
considerable
plan.
amount of time on the city
Yeah.
website, scrolling back through agendas and meetings, trying to find, which was not easy because there's no search way to do it on there. Just trying to find when David found one, so I went back to that meeting. You know, how did we get this Walmart fund? That's where I had to start. And apparently, when Walmart came in, they gave the city a chunk of money as a way to friendly say, we know we're taking business out of your downtown, and we'll help you with your development. So that's, okay, I understand that. And then at one of the city meetings in January of 24 or 25? 25, so there's no good way to get to that except for scroll.
Go further.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
And then my computer died in the middle of it all. So anyway, even going back and trying to listen to that one on Zoom or on YouTube, it wasn't a really good conversation that they signed off on. And so so that made writing this little bullet even harder because I'm not quite sure what the conversation was.
Yeah.
And then I can go back further because my eyes couldn't, I just couldn't do it.
Well, thank you for all the due
Yeah,
diligence
so,
and-
you know, and there's somebody's gotta know something about this, or there's gotta be more somewhere. But David spent a long time doing it, as did I, and I don't think we were real successful. There's gotta be more out there somewhere. You remember?
All right. Any other comments from the council? I'm open up to.
So we need a motion to table it.
You're probably right. Let's table this. Or I'll make a motion to table.
Or to defer the conversation to a later meeting in June.
Yeah.
I don't know about scheduling in June.
Yeah, because our first is the meeting down at the Gateway, so it'll be the second meeting in June. So
Yeah, and then that still gives us a couple of weeks to get it signed, to, yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to bring it up in the second meeting of June. This agenda item.
So I move that we table tonight the memorandum of understanding between Newport Downtown Development and the City of Newport, the draft, and we will re-present it at our second council meeting in June, whatever that date may be.
Unless we have a special meeting.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All those opposed, we're none. All right. So we don't get Rick. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're the best at being up there.
I think with the room clearing out, it's gonna go off a little bit. Very hot.
I noticed all the windows are down. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 10, a review of finances. And Chip Stearns is with us tonight. So Chip, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience in getting here.
It's okay, I'm glad that the students chose not to stay for this exciting review.
Yeah, who knew that they would want to walk away?
So, reports were in your packet. I'm going to attempt again to share on my screen.
Thank you.
Oh, it's coming from up here, that's why it's not picking up. Can you turn the sound up on the screen there, I think? I don't think so. Say some more, Chip. We're trying to figure out sound on our end.
Say some more. Well, I'm hoping to find.
Good, thank you.
Okay. You see what I'm sharing?
Sorry, we're overrolling.
You think it's here?
Yeah, 100%. Here, look, I'll even show you.
I believe it. I believe it.
Okay.
Let's move on.
See the latest one.
Okay.
It might be our internet taking a minute, Chip. It says you're sharing, but we can't quite see it yet.
That's surprising.
Is the Ethernet connected?
What I'm going to do is close a bunch of windows so that I have less windows it's trying to figure out. Now we're cooking. There's the one. Come on now.
Here we go.
Okay. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what it looked like a year ago at this time, there are really only two significant negative numbers on this due to and from list. We have known about the East Main Street Cemetery being a negative number of $22,000. But it was not a year ago that the general fund showed a negative number. And that was primarily because funds 8 and 9.
Can we make, Chip, hold on just a second. Can we make it any bigger? Can you hear him over the fan if I leave the fan on?
No, the fan's really.
No, I'm going to leave the fan off.
So you gotta speak up so I can pick it up.
Speak up. Yeah, this is getting the microphone, turn it up.
It's just insufferably hot, so we have all the windows open, we've got street noise that you're competing with, so. Okay, we're good.
Well, that's good.
Oh, wait, hold on, we lost our big screen, just a second.
still there?
Yes.
Yep, we're good. Now go ahead.
Okay. So, would you please go out and get the ice cream for the ice cream party?
Yes, that's my
Because
job.
you did a pizza party. So looking at the due to the front list that we start every time we do the financials, this is the first time in a long time that we have seen both funds 8 and 9 be in a positive position in which the general fund owes and is holding money on their behalf. A year ago, we were in a condition where the general fund was owed $2 million, primarily from water and sewer. So our situation from May a year ago to May now has drastically changed as a result of actions taken by City Council, recommendations by the task force, both water, sewer, and financial. And I will also state that these numbers include the purchase of the Vector truck. So we are in good stead. As of this afternoon, checking according to the financial system, the current balance in the bank is $5.666 million. These reports were generated at 11 a.m. on Friday, and in case you didn't know, taxes were due Friday. And so that meant that as of Monday morning, all payments that were dropped in the drop box got processed, and the current year taxes that went delinquent amounted to $771,000 in principal. The total taxes now to be collected for principal on delinquency is under $1 million. And again, the majority of that is the current taxes that just went delinquent. I'll jump to the next set of reports. Balance sheets. Blow them up for you. Come on now. Trying to increase their size.
We're not seeing too much change on our end yet. But I
Yes.
also have the capabilities, but I don't, if you've tried your best, then I'll try my best. How about that? You tried your best.
Let's see if I can get, what I'm trying to get to is the plus sign, and it's suppressed.
I love when they do that, shortcuts.
So should we have Carter see if we can make it bigger on our end then, Chip?
There it is.
Sure.
Okay.
We've seen these numbers quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely better.
Okay. So seeing I can't see what you're looking at, I'm going to presume as I scroll around how things go. Again, as of the time this report was generated, there was only $5.1 million in the bank, and another $500,000 was collected between 11 a.m. and 2 o'clock this afternoon. As of this afternoon, there is no longer any current taxes to be collected. There is just around $980,000 in delinquent taxes on the balance sheet. And so if our first notice of delinquency for the current year goes out soon and we can collect a couple $100,000 more, that should help us with our allowance for uncollectibles, which is set at $545,000. It would be nice for us to drop below that number in the next 6 weeks. Nothing else significant has happened on this balance sheet. Those are the highlights for the week based on the timing of our events.
So Chip, I'll just add before you move on that Frank Cheney has been working with the attorneys, and I think that letter is nearly prepared to go out. that leads eventually to a tax sale if people don't respond. And the tax sale, I think, is scheduled, if I remember correctly, Chip, they were aiming for early July. Does that sound right to you?
I haven't been part of those conversations, but expect that to be true.
Okay.
So as I scroll, you should see a change. Oop. Now let me try this. This may mess with you.
Yeah.
That out to you?
We're good.
Okay. So again, looking at the due to and from, which is now on the bottom of the screen. Amounts owed to other funds, 1.1 million. With 5.1 million in the bank. And as I scroll down, the highlight one to look at is going to be on this page. We owe 2.7 to the school. That number is high by $57,000 based on the final cash flow. And Jim is probably expecting a bill from the 3 different schools to be paid. That should take direct money out of the bank as cash, but still leave us in good stead with damn near $1 million when we're done and six weeks left in our fiscal year. And in that same 6 weeks, we just sent out water sewer bills that will be due June 15th, again to give us an influx of cash. Moving on to the mooring management fund. This poor girl just can't seem to make enough money to get out of its own way at the moment. We are current year $29.80 ahead. And it's in a condition where $4,350 is owed to the general fund. It was a lengthy discussion along with other funds at the Financial Task Force meeting of whether or not we should pay this fund off. Mike, the department head from Recreation, indicated he'd like to see what happens in the next 6 weeks before we make any determinations. He sees the sailboats coming in. Next fund, project fund, we took the 17 bucks left over. That's it, nothing changed. This is East Main Street balance sheet. Again, these funds are held by Presumption Savings Bank, the financial group, plus a cash account that we write checks out of to pay some bills. Again, the due to from indicates it owes the general fund $23,005.39, hasn't changed in a month. And the recommendation you'll have later tonight is to write that off with a transfer from the general fund into this fund to zero out its due to from, and then track it closely going forward. And it should be self-sufficient. Curly S. Niles, the trust fund. Again, these are managed as well by the Presumption Prudential Responsible Investors. And there's a minor checking account associated with it. Leaving this one intact, that it owes the general fund 60 bucks, and at some point they will get that money back. It's not significant. New to the CDBG funds. These were all zero, and we had transferred out residual bank account values of $31,853.51. We've had discussions several times. It started when I requested of the prior auditors to put these mortgages held by the city that are not due until 2042 and 2049 onto the books so that anyone reading the financials knows they exist other than by a note in the audit. The task force agreed, and we put them on the balance sheet for CDBG. These are two distinct notes at the time they were written, and they are recorded in the land records. Newport Senior Housing got to borrow $191,500, and it is not payable, not subject to interest, and payable sometime in August of 2049. And look around the room and ask who's gonna be here to know that was due. The Newport Family Housing receivable, $590,000, is due in 2042. And so by putting them on the financials, anytime someone reads the balance sheet for CDBG, they will be reminded of obligations owed to the city in future years, and any future auditor should then say, show me the records. And we have it. Public safety funds, all under the trust and guidance of the police chief. They haven't changed much in values at all. Recreation Trust. I think we had recently a donation of $4,000 that was put in here specifically for trees to be planted at Gardner Park. And I think maybe the trees have already been done. I don't know the answer to that question. But there is money, again, within this fund now held for that purpose. I can't remember the donor's name. But that came in recently, and our goal was to have them planted before June 30th.
Trees have been planted. Yeah, I'll just pause there. I've announced this publicly with Stan and Jane's permission. That was a gift that came from Stan and Jane Shop with the express purpose of putting trees along the peninsula in Gardner Park, kind of on the causeway side. Well, on the Gardner Park side of the river, along the causeway area, basically. So if you look over there, just pay attention. There's, I think it's 18 or something trees that have been planted. So, really pleased with that. Keep going, Jim.
We have met our obligation, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Perfect.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, sewer fund. Start with the top number. Sewer receivables, 666-865-44. That is an indication that we just produced and mailed bills. And Jim can attest to the paper cuts. Printing, folding, and stuffing envelopes.
Yeah, hold anywhere.
Again, the sewer funds due to and from, first time in a very, very long time, the due to and from account is in a positive position where the general fund is holding $214,000 in value on behalf of this fund. And if we are able to collect $666,000, it will have $800,000 in it, less 6 weeks worth of bills being paid. And again, the Vector truck is already out of these numbers. Current year right now, because we're on accrual, we are $543,000 to the good, revenues over expenditures. That number is going to shrink by the next 6 weeks of bills paying, and then it's going to grow back by the accrual of the principal payments on debt. Water fund, same condition, less money. We just billed, we have $466,000 in receivables. The due to and from sits at $427,000 being held by general fund on behalf of water. And again, the Vector truck for the water portion is out of that number. However, when you look at this fund, the current year fund balance is running in deficit mode. We haven't booked as much revenue as we have put out as expense. That number is going to change when we take all of the debt payments listed in the liabilities and take the principal amounts of money out of expenditures and reduce those liability accounts. I fully expect that that will put that fund back into a positive mode for current year activity. And then we're into all of our new balance sheets we created recently. The reappraisal fund started the year with $124,000 as the fund balance shows. We gained $17,943.50. Those are payments made by the state per parcel to go into this fund for future reappraisals. I believe in 26 we still have $20,000 or $24,000 or $25,000 budgeted to be transferred into this fund for the reappraisal that shall start in July, August, September of next year. And those costs will be expended out of this fund in the next fiscal year. Highway equipment. We have nothing in there. Based on the methodology we just used to buy the Vector truck, there will be nothing put in here at the end of 26. This will be an account that begins to gain activity in fiscal year 27. The same is true for the highway paving. Same is true for the police equipment. And the same is true for fire equipment. That in 26, there will be no contributions that I see being made into any of these funds. I see Rick shaking his head yes, so I must be right. The Walmart Reserve, based on your last conversation. General fund is still holding $352,943.79 in the Walmart funds. Sitting out here, I'm not sure why, but oh, this is accounts payable. There's an unpaid invoice for $4,232.50. It started the year with $386 and has spent $37,000 this year. We'll note some activity on the budget status report when we get to this fund. Records preservation, this is the $4 per page recorded that goes into this fund, and then any products bought for records preservation get charged out of this fund, and it retains its own values. The net result of current year activity is $8,383.91 to the good, meaning we're recording more than we're spending. Added since the last meeting, the Glen Road Sand Pit Escrow. It's been talked about, it's been discussed, and now it's been actually added to the financial statements of the city, so the auditor will know its presence and be able to ask questions about it. The interesting quandary about this particular account, it is a physical account, held at the Sussex Savings Bank. The federal ID on the account actually belongs to what I think may be a now defunct organization, but the payee or benefactor of this account is the city. And so made the decision to add this to our financials so that it is clear, and when DRD or otherwise ask questions about where is it, how much is in it, we have those numbers here to be able to show them. And that's the end of the balance sheets. Any question on balance sheets?
Yeah, let's pause there and do any questions that exist on that part. Council members, do you have questions for Chip?
I had a question for a fellow city council member. Yeah. Oh, yeah. John, so were you around when they created the mooring management fund? Because I know that you were responsible, aware of one, it's a very important thing. I was just trying to figure out the establishment because the task force was looking into, again, we are gonna wait and see because Mike was like, hey, we're gonna collect fees, or they're gonna get revenue from that from the summer. So just saying, hey, let's figure out what's actually negative and then return to talk about that with council before we, but I was just wondering the history of like how that was established.
I don't remember the details, but it had something to do with the fact that the moorings have to be inspected and a diver has to be hired to check them regularly. And part of it, well, when people bring their boats down, they can either rent a slip at the city dock and that just goes into the regular rec fund, or they can rent a mooring, and if they rent a mooring, part of that rental goes into this fund apparently, but I'm not privy to all the details. I was pretty involved the first time an effort was made to adopt mooring management in the late 80s. I think I'm the only member of that committee that's still alive, frankly. So the old timers in the room, they remember Westpac and Mark Bennell, who are also involved in it. But in any event, that time around, there wasn't any discussion of creating any special funds. It was just all thought it was part of the recreation budget. But when it was done the second time around, for some reason there was some segregation, but I'm not privy to what the details are.
So big picture conversations, the financial task force was saying, well, just to, your memory is accurate that every other year they have to go inspect, and then some years it's more intensive and they remove issues or identify, anyways. But it is ultimately something that the rec department oversees and maintains, so to eventually have it folded into our budget so that we can appropriately track and account for that when those services are needed. So anyways, I just
Well,
think...
there are two ordinances that govern the moorings and the harbor commission. It's been a long time since we put that.
Okay.
3 to 4 moorings on.
Yeah.
Look at the one.
Okay.
The ordinances, I have the ordinances in the office, it might shed some light on it.
Okay, great. Slight deviation, but thank you.
Other questions, council members, about the balance sheets? Members of the community, balance sheet questions? Laurie, can you come to the mic, please?
I just want to make sure that I fully understand how the Vector truck is figured into all of this. And, you know, maybe we aren't there yet, but did we write a check to them for the full amount? Is this first part just how much the total amount that will be spent? Are we paying this over time? And are we gonna see that? How are we gonna see that?
Yeah, I can answer the first half of the question, then ask Chip to answer the second. The check was cut this week for the full amount, $628,000 and change, and it's available. It's been signed. The warrants were, I think, signed tonight for it, and the idea is that the check will simply be handed over when the truck is delivered in Newport, and I don't have a date for that, but it'll be sometime soon. So that's the answer to the first question. Chip, I wonder if you could just speak to kind of the accounting of how that was handled on our balance sheets.
So on the balance sheet, it was physical cash being out of the general fund checkbook. And it was split in thirds, if you will. 1/3 of it was charged as a vehicle purchase out of the general fund. 1/3 of it was charged as a vehicle purchase out of the water fund. And 1/3 of it was charged as a vehicle expense out of the sewer fund. And as a result, on the balance sheet, the due-to-froms for each fund got adjusted automatically to reflect less money owed to water and sewer because they had spent cash.
And Chip, could you speak to the impact that this has on the capital expenditure planning that we've been doing?
So originally, a year ago, both water and sewer had half a dozen or more bank accounts, physical accounts with cash in them, that the amount of money they held in cash in total was less than the amount of money they owed the general fund. And so the Vector truck between general fund planning, water and sewer planning, physically had what it thought represented an amount of money ready to make a purchase of a vehicle. And the reality was that that money had long since been actually spent out of the general fund coffers and was owed to the general fund for both water and sewer in amounts that exceeded the amount of cash that was held for all these reserves. And so a year ago, June 30, with a $1.8 million obligation to the bank, water and sewer closed all of their cash accounts to give the general fund back money it had spent over time on their behalf, even though the theory was that cash was being set aside, it was being set aside at the cost of the taxpayers. Not the ratepayers who pay water and sewer bills, but the taxpayers who pay property tax bills. And the evidence of that was that the general fund had a tax anticipation note line of credit that was equal to an amount that was actually greater than what water and sewer had available in cash to reimburse the general fund. And we are now a year later, and not only do we have the cash as a result of rate increases and better cash management, we were able to write a check for cash and actually make a purchase that had started to be planned over 5 years ago. So in terms of our capital planning, at least for the Vector truck, we actually met the obligation that was decided 5 years ago. And we met it without borrowing to buy it.
Thank you. Are there other questions about that piece of it? Council members? Folks in the community, any other further questions? Yes, if you could go to the mic.
My major questions are about the budget. But just that language that you use, obligation, I thought at one point there was step one, which is we took all the money out of all of the reserve funds that water and sewer had. Anything that we could take, the city took and put in the general fund so that they could begin to come out even. But we claimed that there was an obligation left to the fund, no money in it, but an obligation. And then I thought the second step that we took was to get rid of that fiction of an obligation so that there was no obligation left owing because you didn't have any money. And so there was no obligation after the second step. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. So we start anew with respect to the budget and the reserve funds that you could see we're down to zero for water and sewer. And are still going to be down to zero from water and sewer after this year. There is no obligation left. I hated the term to begin with. It's a fiction, and you got rid of it, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chip.
Thank you. Chip, do you want to respond to that?
So, the fun part about the capital plan of purchase, that's done in a spreadsheet, and it's our best obligation of what people thought they were going to be doing. And in the past, water and sewer was actually taking cash and putting it into reserves and allowing their operations to be borne by taxpayers and not ratepayers. And so the obligation, if you're referring to an obligation that is cash oriented, the obligation was that money was owed to the general fund, period. But the spreadsheet that says, here's our plan of purchasing for the next 5 years, 10 years, has on it police cruisers, pickup trucks, dump trucks, graders, payloaders, lawnmowers, a variety of things. That plan is really not any different than it was 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, the Vector truck was planned to be bought in '26. And so with all of the motions that we took, actions council took, we actually were able to meet that capital plan to purchase a Vector truck in '26 based on actions taken to get into a financial position where we had the cash almost as if we never closed the bank accounts.
And Chip, please correct me if I'm mischaracterizing this, but simultaneously, department heads have discussed this and agreed that there are other purchases planned on the capital expense planning document that we are intentionally putting off for a period of time in order to kind of catch us up. So effectively, the decision that we made last week was to prioritize the Vector truck over other things because it was the kind of opportunity it was. Did I misstate that in any way, Chip?
No.
Okay.
No.
Any other questions from members of the community? Okay. Then I think we're ready to move on to the budget to actuals, please, Chip.
Okay.
Oh, actually, hold on. Can we do one other thing? When we finish all of this, we're still going to have considerable amount of items on the agenda. And Carter, I'm wondering if, since we have Chip both giving up time and on the clock tonight, if we might want to bump the decision you referenced about the forgiveness of the interfund balance from the general fund to the cemetery fund now, so that when we're done this report, Chip can leave.
Sure.
So can you and Chip, between you, figure out how to characterize what that ask is?
Right, so this has to do with, no, it's not. So this has to do with the East Side Cemetery Fund. Sorry, scrolling to it in my packet so I can get the exact numbers. And you have the physical, we're gonna erase. Okay, this is to save time. Here we go, all right. So basically the financial task force has come to the conclusion to recommend to the council that we forgive that due to from others line. It's a perpetual lingering, we did our best to look into it in the last 2 decades, has resulted in nothing. So it's just there, it will continue to be there and look yeah, look negative. So,
So we have no idea how that originated.
yeah, I wish there was a cool story, there just really isn't. And.
Or we don't know it.
Or we don't know it.
Maybe there is a
yes.
cool story there.
Right, we think it maybe has to do with a really large push to clean it up, literally over 20 years ago, but, yeah, there's no.
I do remember a time when they did clean it up, when they went
Yeah.
through and they redid some of the stones in there. I was a little kid at the time, but I remember that happening.
Right.
Because all the Girl Scout units and everybody around here, there was a lot of community service involved. Maybe it was during that time.
The scouts.
Oh, yeah. That was another thing.
Anyways, so I would
Right,
like.
you remember?
Right, so.
See, it's not just me.
If you went back over 20 years, there's a point of diminishing returns and
Right.
why bother?
Right.
Right.
So I'm emboldened with the support of the financial task force to bring forward a motion to,
You can make a motion.
yes, I can make the motion, I just want to make sure I'm using the correct verbiage, this is from looking at Chip. To forgive the, I don't want to say the debt, it's forgive the due to from balance.
Chip, why don't you offer a motion
Yeah.
for Carter to make, shall we?
So, make a motion that the city council authorize the forgiveness of the interfund balance in the East Main Street Cemetery Fund of $23,005.39 by transfer from a general fund expense account.
Exactly what I was thinking, thank you.
So you've made that motion?
That is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Members of the community, any further discussion about this? We've been talking about this for months, I'll be glad to put this one to bed. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Carter. And Chip, now I think we're ready to move on to the year-to-date budget to actuals.
Okay. And again, these are year-to-date as of 11 a.m. Friday. One of the big exciting things that have happened that we haven't talked about, very little in the revenue stream, because that's primarily on an accrual basis. Again, the highlights to point out, I'm trying to load this up again. That seems a little cleaner.
Yeah, good, we're with you.
And the other interest income, which is just a header account, this is where the $1.3 million of 10-year deficit note money went into. That's why that number is much higher than we expect. The fire department income, much higher than we expect, because that has the $868,000 from the municipal leasing company, equivalent revenue to then lease the fire truck over the course of 10 years as well. Or 9 years, 8 months, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, that's the real reason why you're looking at total revenues being $10 million against 7.8 budgeted. Then we get into the expenditures. Again, this is all summarized to headers, just so it's a lot less numbers to try to regurgitate. We are 6 weeks shy of a full fiscal year, so 1/12 would be 3/24, or what's that going to be, 1/8? So 1/8 of our budget should be left, and in most cases, we are well under that threshold. Salaries, benefits, this is government operations. This is what our expenditures related to just City Hall, with the exception of the police department, because the police department's in its own department within City Hall. 76%, or 3/4 of our budget, of our expenditures, $796, $743 spent. I don't see anything major happening here in the next 6 weeks that'll blow it out of proportion. Public safety, primarily police department, 2.479. We've spent 2.477. We got $2,000 left. Well, some of the things to be known here is that we have in public safety the stone garden reimbursements. They go out as expense and they come in as revenue, dollar for dollar. Well, actually more than that, but dollar for dollar. We have other, as well, services we provide to the schools and dispatch services that are also expenditures that are then reimbursed in the revenue stream. So public safety, PD specifically, is going to be over budget with other forms of revenue that are also unbudgeted when we do our comparisons.
If I could just
Fire
add one,
department.
Chip, I'll just add one more thing while we're there, which is this department in particular is a place where we know that we under budgeted this year pretty dramatically on benefits related to police salaries. And we've corrected that mistake for the budget that we're headed into next year. But this year, we're just having to try and figure out where to absorb that. That mistake alone was over $100,000. There was a similar one, not quite as bad, in Public Works. So when Carrie's been working with the department heads over the last 3 weeks or so to try and get us to a number at the end of the year, kind of how are we going to finish the year, we're having to just admit that we're taking some hits here and hoping that we're going to make it up in other places where we spent less than we projected we would spend.
If we only knew who did that budget. Okay.
Yeah, I had something to do with that.
Fire department, 219 out of 246. 88%, we're still in a good threshold. I don't think there's anything major happening here. We do know that there's another $5,000 that's going to go out under operations to buy the software. And my guess would be that we just won't have anything more going on at fire station as a group to take that in. And an interesting number, total cost public safety, 2.726, spent 2.696 thus far in public safety. So a large portion of city operational cost is in public safety. Then we get into Tom's section. Public Works. $1.5 million and has only spent $1.3 million. And in this case, under the Public Works equipment, you'll see 197 and 207 was the budget. And so I think that that number is going to jump by the Vector truck, because I don't believe this report was done with the Vector truck in it. Our one little city landscaper is 94% of budget, and I think that, you know, as long as the next 6 weeks, you know, we're not out watering the flowers as much, we might not go over budget with this $82,000 and 78 spent. Rec department, another one, I think, in which we were anticipating higher costs than we had. Although when you look at the last line here in waterfront, 204 to 152, I think the ice is out and the waterfront might become busy in the next 6 weeks. Conservation and development, None of these are really outstanding. Debt service, 270 budgeted, 317 actual. There were missed actual known debts that were not budgeted for, plus the cost of the tax anticipation line of credit that was unbudgeted for in 26. And so those brought that number up, and I think we may even have a payment still yet to be done in June to go against those lines. And the same thing for other expenditures, 408 against 363 for a budget. This funding of reserves listed up here, 25,440. I believe 25,000 of that is what is supposed to be set aside for the future reappraisals, which begin next fiscal year. So we will be using that number within here. So next month's report, we will see that. Capital improvements. Here's where fire trucks and what's the other big one? Oh, Gardner Park. Are all in this capital improvements section. And then it would appear that we still have under appropriations. We have yet to pay all of our appropriations. And Jim should be able to attest to that.
We'll just pause there.
They don't get paid till after the 15th of May.
Right, so we'll be paying those ASAP at this point. Okay.
The next AP round, probably. Okay, so that's general fund, of which we are right now 1.284 million to the good, revenue to expenditures. Again, to the good, more revenues than expenses. Mooring management.
Actually, let's pause, hey Chip, let's pause there and take any questions about that, shall we? So council members, do you have questions about the general fund year-to-date budget actuals? Okay, hearing none, members in the community, things you'd like to lift up? Okay, go ahead, Chip.
Okay, mooring management. Brought in more than we spent thus far. And the expense, I think, is just the inspection of the moorings, which I think this was a year when it was the minimal inspection, and next year we have to actually send divers in and pull all the equipment out of the water for inspection. So I expect that value is going to be twice or more what this value is showing for expense. And project fund, again, we transferred out the 17 bucks that was left here. That's all we've got for activity. East Main Street Cemetery has brought in, probably from the investments, $7,327.95, but in maintenance has spent $9,480.66. They tend to pay their own bills out of their own checking account on the balance sheet, which Jim has access to and writes those bills. What we're going to do for that $23,000, we're going to book into this line here, $23,000 to zero out the due to from. Early S. Niles, this again brings in $63.95.19 thus far this year and has spent very little money as administrative costs for management done by the Sussex Savings Bank. CDBG funds. This is going to be static and become zero. These are the interest amounts that were earned on those accounts, cash accounts, before we closed them and transferred them to the general fund. $31,856.64 went to the general fund, and this year they gained $3.13 in interest before we closed the accounts. Public safety funds. So again, interest income has come in on various accounts, really not much. They spent a little bit, $61.54 out of the justice fund specifically. And then there was excess funds in those accounts totaling $13,128.61, which were indicated by the general fund paying bills out of general fund cash on behalf of those other funds, and we cleared those by transferring out those values. Recreation Trust. I think this was prior to the $4,000 coming in, because we don't see 4,000 in and we don't see 4,000 out. Revenues, this 1672.96 sounds like it was picked up in the middle of the street with a boot drop or something, if I remember right. And then trust income, close to the same amount of money, which I think may have been other fundraising projects that took place. Very little spent, trips and events 142, and other expenditures of exactly 378. I don't know what that is. Thus far, it gained this year $2,774.88, but I know there's additional $4,000 came in and went out in the last week, right? For the trees. Sewer, in a nutshell. The budget called for 1.729 to be raised. We raised $2,220,000. Because of increased rates recommended by the Water Sewer Task Force to meet the expenditures and obligations of this fund for its bad past practices, and in order to plan for the future capital improvements that are yet to come. We do have, for those interested, this capital reserve of 771.82 will be realized at the end of the year as an adjustment to the fund balance, to the reserve fund balance. It will never show as an expense here because it's truly not spent money, it's reserved. This fund again is to the good this year, $543,000 right now. However, all of our debt, which is $312,000, the principal amounts will come out of there and go into the liability accounts, and then depreciation will be booked in the line here that is unbudgeted. And the two theoretically should cancel each other when we get done. Water fund.
I have some questions about the
We'll come
sewer
back.
fund.
We'll come back.
Water fund, just about like the sewer fund, 1.155 budgeted, 1.474 brought in, again on an accrual basis. Again, the Water Sewer Task Force raising rates to meet current and future obligations. We do have a few things in here that are going to move to fixed assets for depreciation in the future, typically under capital expenditures, which is why you see this number of 500,000 spent in capital expenditures. We also will see the debt service. We haven't quite met all of the debts we anticipated yet. I think that, again, there's one that's due in June. And again, the capital reserve will be an unbalanced adjustment, and depreciation will be booked after it's calculated. Reappraisal, just the money that came in from the per parcel state payment. It is, I believe, $9.50 per parcel. That comes in April, May of every fiscal year, and it's intentional that they give you money for future reappraisals on your plan list. Highway equipment, nothing. You'll find the same for highway paving. Same for police equipment. Same for fire equipment. Walmart Reserve. So, interestingly, the city did get an economic development grant of $45,000 that came in. I believe it passed through NDD.
No, not that one. That one came directly to the city for the Walmart fund.
For the Walmart fund, okay, good. And then we have spent year to date $82,423.68 out of the Walmart fund. And so that's the net on the balance sheet that we saw, the current year fund balance as a loss of $37,401.72.
I'll just add there, Chip, that there's going to be movement in this over the next month that's pretty great for the city, which is that a year ago, just before I was elected mayor, the city council and Mayor Sullivan and NDD worked out a proposal that NDD made to USDA RBDG funding at the federal level, asking for, we projected that the cost of all of the work, the preliminary work to try and get us ready for any proposals to the state for a TIF or whatever might come up, was likely to run us in the neighborhood of $175,000. We asked for an RBDG grant to cover 80% of that, with a match of 20% of that provided by the city. So the match for that ended up being, the language was somewhere over, just over $40,000, $42,000. And the potential reimbursement from the federal government through USDA for expenses related to this preliminary work was up to $131,000 or $2,000. That proposal was made in February with an expectation that we would hear about whether or not we'd been given the grant by August, which was typical, July even, of RBDG. We didn't get any word back. And we were among, I think there were a total of 9 viable proposals from the Northeast Kingdom for that USDA money, that source of funding. None of us heard any response. And you'll remember this was in the immediate aftermath of all, or during the kind of craziness about what the federal government was and wasn't going to make good on. And honestly, I gave up on it. I just assumed the fact that we didn't hear meant we would never see it. Abby Long, who's the interim director of NEK Collaborative, figured all this out in September and began knocking on doors with a lot of help from our congressional delegates, Rebecca Ballan's office, Peter Welch's office, and Bernie Sanders' offices. And it took 6 months of insistence. Eventually, in February, we were notified that all of those 9 proposals would be fully funded by the federal government after I think most of us had long since given up on it. So we've received word that that money is available, and there's significant spending we've done in the last year. We can go back as far as August 1st of last year to ask for reimbursement of any expenses. And so the city and NDD are trying to work on that first reimbursement request right now. I think we put a meeting on the schedule to try and work out exactly how to delineate that first request for reimbursement. But the good news is there's $131,000 coming that will replenish money we've spent and any future spending we'll do. The only activity so far since we were notified is that I was in touch with the guy who runs USDA for the state of Vermont, and we've been given an extension because the original grant was written to be finished in the middle of August. So we've been given, I think, a 6-month extension to play out the spending in this fund. So stay tuned. We'll know a lot more about how this is all going to work itself out, but it's all good news for the city that I had long since given up any hope we were going to receive. Any others? Do we have any other funds we got to look at here? I think we do.
Yep, 2 more. This is records preservation, money in, 9980, money out, 159609. And the last one is the Glen Road Sand Pit Escrow, which has just earned interest. And we'll see that every month, I think, because of the nature of the account. It's a monthly statement. And the bottom line is overall, all funds. We are $1.5 million to the good in all funds.
Okay, so council members, I'm going to ask you first. Do you have questions or comments you want to talk about for anything except the general fund that we've already looked at? Any of the other year-to-date budget to actual status reports? Okay, hearing none, I know, Ian, you've got something. You want to go to the microphone, please?
Yep. I'd love to.
Thank you.
So, if we analogize to the general fund each year, you figure out how much you have in total expenses that you're going to have for the year, and then you want to make sure you bring in the income to pay for that. So last year, in the 2025 budget, you predicted you were going to need about $7.8 million for the expenses that were going to be for the city that year. And so then you took in you considered what other income we get income from other than taxes. You subtracted that from the 7.8 and you figured out how much you should ask the taxpayers to pay, which was the difference between them. Look what happened in the sewer fund, for example. You predicted that you were going to need in revenue, after total expenditures, $1.738 million. And therefore, you predicted that you wanted to bring in revenue of $1.728 or so million. Instead of that, you brought in $2.2 million already in the sewer. $5 million more than you said.
Not 5 million. Be careful.
I'm sorry, 500,000 or so more than the total expenditures that you predicted. The budget said that you were going to need 1.7. You should have been looking for 1.7, but you've already brought in $2.2 million. So where could the other money come from? You got some other money that pretty much stays the same from various sources like Derby. You've got our water and sewer fees that the citizens pay. and I don't think you include grant money there because you don't include grant money anywhere else. So you collected $500,000 more than you needed. And so I would have said, when you see that, you could say to yourselves, gee, we don't have to charge the people next year for that extra $500,000 that we already took in over budget. We can just give them a credit on it for next year. That would be fair, and then they would not have to pay what we are paying now, which is double the rate of water and sewer that we were paying maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But instead of doing that, look what happened when you look at the expenses. The capital expenditures that you budgeted for that year was $8,500. You spent $398,506. Your percentage extra isn't like 200%, which would be double what 8,500 is. Your percentage that you spent was $4,688 more than you budgeted. Wow. And only if the 220 is in there, which maybe it is, for the share, for the Vector, you already had spent 220 minus 400, that's one. You already spent $180,000 in capital expenditures on something else for the sewer department. So that's outrageously high to allow to happen. The other thought, well, I didn't have any other thoughts about where that money came from, but you're billing us too much. You billed us $500,000 too much, and of course that gives you extra money to be buying capital expenditures worth that. And then let's go over to.
So Ann, I'm going to ask you to keep your comments as brief as you can, please.
I will. I go over to water. You said you were going to spend you were going to need $1.150 million. And that's what you said you wanted to take in as income. Only you took in 1.47 in income. We the taxpayer, the water and sewer rate payers, are paying that difference of about 230, I don't know, you calculate it. That's more than that. It's maybe $380,000 more that we're paying. And look at what happens in the capital expenditures line. You said you needed $38,300 for capital expenditures. You spent, I'm having trouble with long glasses. You spent, I believe that's a 5, it could be a 3, 97,502. You spent $1,535% more than you were supposed to spend on capital expenditures. You are way out of budget. And I asked myself, and it says right down at the bottom, right now you're negative minus 242,000. But I asked myself, why did you ask for, or why did you go up to 1.474? And I have an inkling that maybe you were considering that you were going to pay the loan for water, that's for the tower on the east side, of $167,000 payment sometime this year. But you're not paying that payment until July. I think it got postponed to July and you never made a payment at all in this year for that water tower. Am I correct?
No. There was a payment of interest only in the spring, and then there will be a payment of interest plus principal Carrie, when do we expect that?
It's twice a year. It's like in May and November.
And how much was the interest only?
I don't know,
But
recently.
you also paid interest on the Sunset loan.
Well, just
Right.
get.
Yeah, so let's just ask the questions, Anna, and then we'll come back and try and answer.
Okay, so even if you paid something small in terms of interest only, you're taking too much from the water and sewer payers, and therefore you may think you've got more money there, but first of all, this says you're negative already. You still have some things to pay further in the next couple of 6 weeks or so. You're negative. I don't see how you come out any other way. And you may have done it. It's a done deal now. Maybe the check's already signed. You think you can't go back and do anything about it. I don't know if you can. But next time when somebody comes and begs you, oh, we need this police vehicle, or we need this, or we need that, it hasn't broken down yet, but, we don't have a Ouija board or something else that tells us how long it's going to last. Go to the budget and see whether or not you have the money in the budget, because the document that you gave out says you didn't have it.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Chip, is there any of that you would like to respond to? And then, council members, if you have comments or questions in response to any of Ann's points, I'm happy to hear them. Chip?
So, part of the dilemma is looking at today's numbers and not looking at a year ago's numbers, in which the budgeted expenditures may have been true and accurate for 10 years. The budgeted revenue was set up to exactly match the budgeted expenditures, but the rates were never adjusted to generate the revenue to begin with. And so, this is like the old Shell ad, you can pay me now or you can pay me later, and Newport City is in the pay me later mode. So the recuperation of obligations that were held by the general fund being owed money from water and sewer are now in a mode in which water and sewer are generating revenue that will make them self-sustaining. And that in doing so, there were and have been expenditures, including debt, that have not been recognized in the revenue stream as needing to be raised, except by the fact they plugged the budget number into the revenue for services and never tested to see if the rates were going to generate that revenue. I think that the Water Sewer Task Force has considered a lot of minute details during this fiscal year in which you're comparing budgets that were developed woefully inadequate, and when you look at the numbers that were presented in the annual report for this fiscal year, the annual report said they summed to zero, and when I plug them into the financials, they don't sum to zero. This water generates $5,300 of surplus, and the sewer, I think, has a deficit budgeted of $8,259.77. So the budgets, to me, for the revenue stream were plugged in, never validated that the rates and the consumptions and the unit counts were actually going to generate that kind of money. And again, the Water Sewer Commission over the last year has done more than due diligence to make sure that going forward, everything that is needed is generated by ratepayers and not by taxpayers. So yes, we generated right now what looks like $543,000 of excess in the budget, understanding this is accrual, so there's going to be adjustments made at year end that is going to alter that 543. And in fact, the revenue may go up by as much as $50,000-$60,000 because we have unbilled revenue from May 15th through June 30th that we have to recognize. I'm not sure what that number is on the balance sheet, but I'll go back to the balance sheet to look. 6, 7, 8. Unbilled revenue last year, $268,000, meaning that was usage in the fiscal year that ended June 30 but wasn't billed until August or September. So, understanding when you're reading the budget status report, that it is a snapshot in time and it is not what the ultimate audit numbers are going to show you.
Thank you, Chip. Council members, any other comments you'd like to make before we move on to that?
Isn't one of the other things that skews the expenditure side, having to take into account water tower expenses, for instance, other project expenses of that sort, which were budgeted in prior fiscal years?
So,
the cash is
yeah, so even the capital expenditures in here, 398, probably include residual bills relative to the water tower project, which those will be taken out of the expenditures, put in as a capital asset to be depreciated over 25 or 30 years. But as we build it, we book expenditures, and then they get reclassified at year end to be fixed assets and depreciate over time.
So that would be the 587, 502 on the water side. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I remember what the projects were on the sewer side. And then we've got the siphon one now.
I think that's the only major project.
There was some other sewer related last year.
I'm sorry that it's not coming to my head.
Yeah. Blank.
I think for me, the most important point that Chip's making is that what we're looking at here is a snapshot in time. And we're going to have to see how this all fleshes out at the end of the year. And the Water and Sewer Task Force has been, in my judgment, heroic at doing their level best to guess what's going to happen. And they've made a commitment that they're, for the foreseeable future, going to be looking at numbers each quarter to try and determine whether or not rates should be adjusted up or down. So, you know, my judgment is that we're doing exactly what we ought to be doing. And that I'm thrilled, actually, with our current balance sheets, and what it appears to indicate to me has been remarkably fiscally prudent decision-making on the part of the City Council acting as water and sewer commissioners.
I also think that a lot of it has to do with the water usage, the usage. I think a lot of people, I think there's people using a lot more water than now that there's meters in them, that they were not before. I know my water bill has gone up a lot, but I use a lot of water. I don't versus before the meter happened.
So what you're saying then is, this is first attempt, but it's not set in stone.
Well, you'll see, I mean, we won't know
Let's
until
figure this out.
October what the finals through the audit actually look like. It'll be probably mid to late October before we have the actual activity that's taken place. And we're going to live in a little bit of limbo between now and then and keep looking at our snapshots each month to kind of get our best guess about how we're doing. And the Water and Sewer Task Force has been doing the same thing, watching those reports and trying to make sure that the adjusting that they've been doing, which has been at some level blind adjusting all year, is basically on track.
Yeah, until we see the audit reports this fall, it's going to be really hard to know what we're seeing.
Right.
And once the depreciation is adjusted and all the other budget is.
You need another tape? Okay. All right, any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the review of finances done. I'm going to thank you, Chip, for your patience hanging in here tonight and for all of your effort with the finance and we call it. Anyway, the Finance Task Force, sorry, it's late. I made up that stupid name. You'd think at least I could remember it. And also thank you to the Water and Sewer Task Force for all their work, and thank you folks for keeping an eye on things. Okay, Chip will release you, I think. We're all done.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
So, council members, I would accept a motion to find that premature public knowledge of collective bargaining with the city's police and dispatchers union would place the city council at a substantial disadvantage, including by revealing confidential contract negotiations. Do I have that motion? I have a motion. In a second, any comment? Hearing none, motion passed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Do you need anybody special?
No, we do not. It would be just council. So, may I have a motion under 1 VSA Section 313A1B to enter into executive session to consider contract negotiations between the city and police and dispatchers union? I've got a motion from John, a second from Andrew. If somebody would make a little note on Jim's sheet down there, Sharon, to let him know that it was John and then Andrew who made the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. There were two motions. Second one, Sharon voted for you.
That was to go into executive session. Who made the first one?
I don't remember. Andrew, did you make the first motion about the
Yes.
premature knowledge?
Yes.
Andrew made it.
So they have more air than we do?
Okay. May I have a, Jim, are you ready again?
They might not need it.
Sorry. We're just spins.
Yeah, okay.
Skin of our teeth.
Yeah, all right, we're back, baby.
All right. May I have a motion to come out of executive session during which no action was taken?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Sharon. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, item number 12. I think, John, you have a motion you would like to put on the table.
Sure. I move that the contract with the New England City, the Newport Police Department through the New England Police Benevolent Association that was previously presented to us in conference for review in executive session be approved with the addition of language in the second line of the second paragraph in section 603, so that that line reads through a spouse or a domestic partner or parent or legal guardian or through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any conversation? Questions? I'll just say a word about process and kind of where we are now. So this document that has been confidential up until this moment, there will be a red line version available. I think probably Carrie and I can figure out with help from John Klesch how to make that available, if not tomorrow, certainly by Wednesday. It will show a red line so that you can see all of the changes that the council was considering, or not was considering, but has approved. The proposed contract has already been reviewed by the union and its members. And so our understanding is that this action by the council tonight, if we did just pass it. As passed, sorry, it is late, is already accepted by the union and therefore it will be fully available. That's why we can make it available as a public document, because they've already acted on it as well. So within 24 to 48 hours, we'll have the final version.
Can you just tell us, for instance, the big points of the percentage increase in
Sure.
salaries?
Yeah, I can tell you that The percentage increase approved for the coming fiscal year is a 3% across the board increase. Matches the budget that we passed, that the voters passed in March. It has a similar increase next year with a special provision for an increase for dispatch employees in particular, in order to get them closer to comparables around the state. And then there's another similar increase. I think the increases, if I remember correctly, Andrew, are 3% this year, 3% next year, 4% the following year. That'd be the total salary increases. There are a number of other things where we went back and forth and kind of tinkered and made some concessions. I think I'll just name some of them. One is a provision that the city will pay for cell phones, dedicated cell phones, for all of the officers, so that they don't have to use their personal phones on the job, which will then also protect their personal phones from PRA requests and that kind of stuff. So that was a total cost of about $10,000. We made some changes to match the language in the new personnel policy, so that the days off, the holidays that are given match the personnel policy now. We're trying to bring that into harmony. The vacation accruals match the personnel policy because they were a little lower in the contract than they were in the approved personnel policy. What else do you want to lift up, Andrew?
The longevity bonus, the longevity pay will follow suit with the personnel policy as well. And then
yeah. Oh, and then the one big thing that we've done that will it bears just mentioning now, because it'll be potentially something that people haven't seen before, is that the current contract, the one that it will finish the end of June, allowed a buyout option for someone who had appropriate health care elsewhere to be given money by this from the city at 40% of the cost of a single payer plan. We have increased that considerably, so that we've actually increased the incentive for people who have particularly partner plans or family plans to take the buyout if they actually have plans elsewhere that provide similar or equal coverage. And there's language in it that adds that provision. On an annual basis, they would have to give proof that they have the coverage elsewhere provided through another employer, and that's the change that John offered tonight. We added the words "or through the Veterans Administration healthcare system." And so that new plan will pay 50% of the cost at the single or partner or family level. So for instance, if someone opts out of a family plan, which costs the city right now about $32,000, it means the city would pay $16,000 to them to do so. We figure everybody wins if someone has appropriate coverage elsewhere and takes it. I think those are the big changes that folks can expect to see. Lori, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Please come to the mic. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is that normal to have I mean, my husband and I have been doing this back and forth thing the whole time both of us worked, and I've never seen in a situation where an employer would actually pay. We just went where we got the best coverage.
Yeah.
And then you opted out of wherever you were. I just have never heard.
It's my understanding that it's not an uncommon practice.
Yeah, my kids have it. My kids have it in the medical field.
more and more places are going to it because it's a savings to the company. They usually split it or they work it out with. If you decline it, as long as you show proof that you are insured somewhere else, they give you a spit or a rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to appreciate particularly the negotiating team for the city, which was Andrew and myself and John Klesch, our attorney, who did a lot of the heavy lifting on, Andrew did huge research on comparables from around the state. John and his staff put those into spreadsheets that tried to play out the implications for us, so we had something we were really working with. It was all extremely helpful, and so I'm really grateful. And I want to appreciate too the Northeast Police Benevolent Association's leadership, included Emily Leinoff and Nick Rivers from our PD, and Phil Matthews, who works for NEK-TV, who drove up here from wherever he lives down south, like down in New Hampshire or somewhere, to be with us for every single session we had. So it was, I feel good about where we ended up, and I think they would say the same thing.
You need to vote on
We didn't vote on the motion. Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. But we got the motion on the table. Yes? All right, any other comment or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you for helping me get it across the finish line. Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. Water and sewer allocation request. Let's just pull that document. Somebody have it in front of you there?
You do.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
It's flagged with a sign here.
It's what?
It's flagged with a sign
Oh, it's
here.
the flag, one that's flagged. Thank you, Mary. So we did not make Tom come in and represent on this, or Frank tonight. These are standard. This is, we have, I guess we have two, Carrie, or are they the same thing?
I think one is sewer and one water.
One is sewer, one is water. So this is an application for a water allocation turn on for 19 Ice Pond Drive for Susanna and Nicholas Howe. Oh, sorry, they're from Ice Pond Drive, I was going to say, in Florence, Massachusetts. The address where the allocation is being requested is Hartley Lane on the corner of Hartley and Roberge. And then there is a similar one for a preliminary wastewater allocation application. And so let's just, to be sure we're doing this right, take them in two separate motions, shall we? May I have a motion to approve the application for water allocation turn on Hartley Lane on the corner of Hartley and Roberge?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
So this isn't to a specific address, it's just up the road, the entire road?
Well, they don't get a 911 address until they build the driveway.
Right, we don't know it.
So this is like, because I just Googled it and it's like, there's a parcel for sale with it on it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
they
that
own
was just
this
my,
parcel, but
okay.
I probably should recuse myself because this is my neighborhood and I'm against this.
Well, you're welcome. Well, I don't know if you've got this. It's a good question. If you want to recuse yourself, that's an appropriate thing to state.
Well, it's not a mobile home, it's pretty much big, it's a park model RV.
Okay.
So that's why I'm going to recuse myself because I'm very against this.
Thank you, Sharon. I will. So we'll take your recusal.
Okay.
All right. And I will note that Frank tells me that, as far as he can tell in the ordinance, there's nothing prohibiting the planned usage for the property. So tonight, but thank you, Sharon. I had forgotten that that was an issue. Okay. So I have a motion on. No, I don't have a motion yet. Okay, I have a motion, do I have and who made the motion? Andrew, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I have an intention from Sharon to recuse herself. Do I have further questions before we vote?
Is there anything else atypical about it? Because this is the first one I have seen come across the council desk.
It's the first one I've dealt with as well.
Tom
John?
told me no. He told me it's.
Okay, so, yeah. I mean, Frank basically said, I know there's some concern about it, but our policy allows for this intended use.
Yeah, I think in terms of the use, that it is what it is. In terms of the application process, both of those ordinances contain these procedures. The forms look different because there's two separate parallel processes in the two ordinances.
Got it.
Part of our
Part of the work.
Part of our big water sewer committee picture someday is to create a unified, combined, simplified application that covers both someday.
Okay, I have a motion on the table. Is there anyone else who has comment or question in the community? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. And Jim, please note in the minutes that Councilmember Perry has recused herself. Thank you. Second one is, may I have a motion to approve the preliminary wastewater allocation application for the same address on the corner of Hartley and Roberge?
So moved.
I have a motion from Andrew. And a second from John. Any further discussion?
So if this is turned on for a whole street, it says on average the flow of both farms looks like it's 210.
That's basically right out of state law, it's based on the number of bedrooms.
Okay, yeah,
And it's higher than what Tom tells us real flows are generally in the water sewer committee meetings. But the state rules impose a much higher level. And the state rules require you to use their numbers for allocation purposes.
Okay. So they're conservative as well, in the way of anticipating more.
Yeah, they're providing for a lot of fluctuation.
Okay. Any further comment? Go ahead, Teresa.
Do we know if they'll have a meter? I mean, are they gonna, if you turn on water to a new place, do we get a meter?
They have.
Yes,
They have.
it's a condition. Thank you for asking. Any further comments or questions? Sharon, I assume you'll be recusing yourself on this one as well. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries with one recusal. Okay. Moving on. Water and sewer, John, what you got?
We are, I believe, done with the amendment that we've been working on for the ordinance. We're sufficiently done with it that it's ready to go to the city attorney for review. And then depending on what comments we receive there, some further refinement before it comes to the council.
Okay, so no action needed from the council, it's just letting
None.
folks know that we're going to move it on to the attorneys and then bring it back.
None now, and then, after we have a full year's worth of budget data, July, August, I think we'll be taking a look at that again.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for John? Anything else, Jennifer? Anything you want to add? Okay. Let's move on then to financial reporting and fiscal practices.
We took care of the first thing when Jim was here, and there's like mooring management and the Curly S. Niles, the financial task force has reviewed. We're not ready to move or shake on any of those things. So, but one thing that Carrie is bringing back, just to, so there's a credit card processing procedure in the packet. It's actually been in place for 2 billing cycles now and has gone well, so the city is no longer paying late fees on all of our payments, so we're already seeing the dividends there. So this just kind of outlays that process, and we're also finding that I mean, if to be honest, like the Stacy departing and then onboarding a new person, which sounds like it's going really well and really exciting, but that whole training and documenting our process, it's not just a policy, but it's also, hey, how do we go about this and keep ourselves accountable? So, but as far as I understand, this is going smooth. Anything else you want to add, or Jim, add on this?
Great.
So we're ready to actually take action on this tonight?
I don't think you have to, based on.
We don't need action?
No, just kind of closing the loop, because I promised I'd bring it back.
Okay. Okay.
And this does, we did pass a credit card policy, in December or January, I can't remember when.
Yeah.
So this abides by that, but this is just like also again that practice of, okay, policy listen, but this is really the day-to-day. And then also, our next city council meeting will be the vision meeting for 2028, so please come, invite your friends. And yeah, we're meeting, the financial task force is meeting Wednesday at noon at the Gateway to just walk through the flow and then hammer out the details of the schedule, so if you're interested, that's a public meeting at noon. All right.
Okay. Nothing to report from City Manager Search Committee, right?
Correct, I did send a note to Dominic to get an update, but it doesn't close until next Friday, so any update I get or you would have received would probably be out of date by the time it closes, but yeah.
But it probably makes sense to ask Dominic about scheduling the next meeting of the search committee
Yeah.
now, so we can get it on the calendar.
Sure.
I'm just thinking, anything we can do to compress the timeline
Yeah.
post May 29, because I'm ready.
I'll follow up right now.
Thank you.
Me too, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
Applications had to be in by when?
May 29.
Yeah, 29th, so there's still 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd say it's more than appropriate to get the next meeting
on the
on
calendar.
the calendar,
Yeah.
go through those resumes.
Okay, I don't assume there's anything else from fire tonight, right? Okay, no more fire department strategic planning tonight. Moving on to item 15, council members, any new business? Carter?
I went to steering committee meeting, and, well, outside of Magog, it was gorgeous, it was lovely to see,
It was rainy all day.
it was, yeah, it was, what was that, the magic that was, two governments working together around one water body, and the nuances there is incredibly interesting, but also hearing the science, that is going on, so hopefully there's more there soon. Yeah, that's my new business.
Great, thank you. Andrew?
No, thank you.
John? Sharon?
The only thing I wanted to add was, so we have another centenarian here in Newport, very active. I have fond memories of him when I was a little kid. His name is Andy Pepin. He's 102. He resides at Bel Air, you know Andy? Yeah, so he would be the next one I would love to do another celebration for in June. But anybody who knows of anybody else who's currently 100 or going to be turning 100, it's really hard to find this information out. And you can't go to the I mean, I'm going to try to word it in such a way at the nursing homes, but with HIPAA, they can't tell me information without family giving me the information. So I had a long conversation with Scott Wheeler, who also is, oh my, I'm not sure I gotta think about this, and he's not succeeding either. He is gonna post it in the journal. Anybody who hears of anything, please let me know.
Is his wife still alive?
No, she died.
When?
Couple weeks.
Oh, about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ernestine.
Yeah, I used to deliver Meals on Wheels to them.
Yeah, nice people.
It might be nice when we do Andrew's
I would, yeah. I
to
was
do
gonna talk
something that
something
lifts
about her,
up
too.
Steenie, because she spent years and years and years, especially committing to the Magog Historical Society. So, okay.
So
I thought this was beautiful tonight.
I'll be in touch with
Sharon.
his daughter
Thank you,
tomorrow.
that was really special.
Yeah, I thought it
Oh,
was
it
great.
was an honor.
Yeah.
It was an honor.
Jim, any other new business? Okay, and I don't have anything. Old business, Carter?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the bike rodeo. So a couple meetings ago, it's like, this date, turns out there was an unscheduled, uncalendared event that created a safety concern for a bunch of little kids riding bikes. So I postponed it to the first weekend of August. So August 1st, bring out date of August 2nd. There's nothing else on the calendar as far as I know. And also this time of year is like super saturated with like family events. It was like, yeah. So, anyway, there's more on that. I'm making up the promo material, so I'll be distributing that. But anyways, August 1st.
Thank you, Carter. Andrew?
No, thank you.
John?
No, thanks.
Sharon? Jim?
Yeah, Memorial Day services next Monday. I'm the speaker, if anybody wants to participate in that, you're welcome to walk from here to the back in the parade. Just so everybody in town knows who the council is.
Yeah, I welcome y'all if you'd like to come
Come
along.
on, sure, you can do it.
10 o'clock Monday morning,
10 o'clock.
and the whole thing wraps up usually in about an hour and 15
If
minutes.
you're there at 10:02, you're too late.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah, Jim's running a well-oiled machine here, so.
I know.
Jim's been doing it for a long time.
All right. So just a word of explanation, as we set the next council meeting, I've been doing some thinking about this. I think the way to make sure that we are in compliance with the charter requirement that we hold a meeting on the first Monday of the month is that we will formally open a council meeting that has a warned agenda of discussion related to the New Vision 28 budget planning. We'll just open the meeting at the beginning. If there's any action that needs to be taken for some reason, we'll take it. We'll let the meeting run, and then we'll close the meeting formally at the end of the evening. So may I have a motion to set the next meeting of council as a special town meeting to include council meeting agenda items as needed regarding Newport Fiscal Vision 28 for June 1st, 2026 at the Gateway. Dinner to be served at 5 p.m., meeting to begin formally at 5:30. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comment, question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you all for a long evening.